Nancy, I didn't expect you to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm giving, oh, sorry, that's too loud. I am trying to send you instructions on how to elevate.
I think,
an
I
attendee.
think I have done this. It looks like I don't have full host controls right now. I'm just a panelist.
Then you clicked on the wrong link.
Really?
You
Okay.
have to, I
Let me log out.
think I have to risk this.
Okay, I'm going to log out and try to log back in.
Use the link, the original email that I sent you,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
what
the panelist. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry, host.
Yeah, no, I did. It says invited to a Zoom webinar as alternate host. And I clicked on start webinar instead. There were two links there. Let me try not the start webinar. Let me try the other. Be right back.
I am having interference and having trouble hearing you. Oh, I know why. I'm logged in twice when it wasn't supposed to be logged in twice. Okay, can you hear me? Oh.
Huh. No, I tried the other link and it's the email that says you're invited to the Zoom webinar as an alternate host. And I clicked both links, but it looks like I'm still a panelist.
Okay, let me get you there. Hold on.
Okay, thanks.
I saw your text very late last night. I'm like, okay, I'll get up super early to make sure.
Yeah, no,
everything's
I'm
working.
so sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I'm super and uber appreciative of your support here.
Okay, let's see where you are. There we go. Okay, no, you're in as co-host, so you're good.
Okay, so
So what
then
you
that's
do?
yeah. So I thought I'd have more controls along the bottom, like the security icon and things like that. But I'm totally open and listening. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, what are you talking about security? Let's see if you see what I see.
Okay.
Okay, so on the bottom, I have
Yep.
mute start video, participants, a green share screen,
Yep.
raise hand,
Yep.
pause and stop recording, and close
Yep.
captioning.
Oh, and you're recording. Brilliant. You're already recording. Okay.
You might be recording as well. Do you see a little red recording on the upper left?
I do. Can we both be recording to separate places?
I do not know. That's a good question.
Did you start the recording?
As soon as I logged in and you logged in, it started recording.
Huh. I wonder where it's recording. Well, I'm not going to read it. I'm just happy it is recording. That's great.
On my computer, when I set up, since I'm the one that has the ability to set up a meeting for 1,000 plus, I automatically schedule this to record.
Nice.
To the cloud. Sorry, so it's a cloud.
To the cloud. That's what I was wondering. Okay, brilliant. This is awesome. You are awesome. Okay. So I'd love for you to stay. You don't have to stay.
I will. I'm up, so I'll listen in.
Okay. So walk me through then. I think I'm mostly concerned about people having the opportunity to respond during public comment. So how I elevate them.
Very good. Okay, you know what? Let me see if I can log in now so you can practice with me.
Okay, that'd be great.
So on the bottom, there's participants, and you'll see a number 2. There's 2 participants, and that's you and me. So participants always include the panelists. If you click on that button,
I'm there.
A panel shows up that shows you how many panelists and how many attendees.
I'm just so you know, so I'm used to running Zoom for classes like constantly. So I'm very used to the controls.
Okay, so if you want to elevate an attendee, you would click on the attendee tab.
Oh, there it is.
Find the person you want.
Yep.
And as soon as I log in, you'll be able to see what it's going to look like. So
okay, great.
I need to use a device that doesn't know that I'm an employee. rpps.net. So I'm going to the school website to find the link. And that's how the public should be doing this. Board agenda.
And what was I gonna say? The meeting really doesn't start till 8:30.
Right.
I put this out, and a couple of board members have said, you know, it's posted at 8, and I said, yes, that's just because I wanted to get the Zoom up and running and be successful, but it doesn't start till 8:30, so that's good.
Okay. All right. I should be logging in as a member of the public.
Okay. I guess I could do that too on my other computer.
You do have to use a device that does not recognize feedback.
Yeah, I see you. There you are.
Oh, okay,
So
very good.
allow to talk, promote to panelist. I'm going to promote you to panelist, okay?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, and so I get a pop-up asking me, do I want to stay as an attendee or join as a panelist? I'm going to join.
Good.
And now you see I shifted over.
Yep. Nice. Here we go.
So now, when you're ready, go back to the panelist tab and hover over my name and click on the button that says more.
Right. Do I remove you? Or change
It-
role to attendee? Change role to
Yes.
attendee. Yep,
Yes.
got it. Okay, nice. Very nice. That's all I was worried about this morning. I think we've got the rest of this. Actually, I've got to get my head together with the slideshow and the introduction and the agenda. I've got to find the agenda. But I think I can't, seriously, I can't thank you enough.
All right, very good. So I'm gonna mute myself and I'll be listening in the background.
I think you'll appreciate it. I know I will definitely appreciate this. I think you'll appreciate this.
What you know, when you have a chance, I would love to have the slideshow from the previous one.
Oh,
Because I
okay.
actually
So
want to read the books that she recommended.
it's so good. So she, oh, I should have my Edgar Schein book. I'm going to mention a couple of things today too, but let's see. So she's starting with that slideshow, and there's today. It's the first 30 slides of today, and then we'll move into today's content. So it's the same slideshow today, and I'll give it to you after we finish.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. So I am gonna go eat breakfast and I'll be back.
Nice. Okay. And if people show up, I'm going to go ahead and I might make a short announcement. You know, we're not starting till 8:30. That's all. And we're recording, which is awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Dr. Haynes, if you look at the screen, you'll see that there's a little hand raised at the attendee section.
Mhm.
I just raised my hand so you can see what it looks like.
Nice, okay,
And that shows you the members of the public that wish to speak.
nice.
You have the option of not allowing raised hands until you are ready.
Okay,
So you let me know if you want me to make sure that no one can raise their hands until the proper time.
and actually, that's going to be at the beginning of the meeting, and I was advised by the lawyer, um, because we had to change venues so late, I will allow public comment at the end of the meeting. I'm going to add it to the agenda.
Okay, so
So there'll be 2 times in the meeting.
very good. So that option is done in the participant view, and I'm
Yep,
sorry, panelist view, and I'm gonna unmute everybody. I'm sorry. Not allow raised hands for now.
okay. One other question. So, I think that's different than our school Zoom. In school Zoom, I, as the moderator or host, have to allow people to come in. In this view, if a public member has the link, they can just log in, right?
Yes,
Okay,
they
good.
can jump in and out. It's the panelists, when they accidentally get out, you have to promote them back in sometimes.
Great.
It's hit or miss. I'm not sure what the panelist is doing that prevents them from automatically coming back in.
Okay. I'll watch for that. Is there a way that's what I'm missing from the school view Zoom view is down at the bottom where there's participants. Just to the left of that, there's like a security shield icon in the education one, and there are about 6 options in there where you can allow them to change their name, allow them to share screen, allow them to change their
I know
background.
where
There's a
you're
whole
going.
bunch of stuff.
So go to in the panelist view, go to the
Yeah.
very bottom and click on the 3 dots, and you have options there.
There. So all those things are over in that security thing. Yep, this is different. Okay. So appreciative. Yep.
Okay, very good.
Nice. Thank you. Yep.
You're
Good.
welcome. Bye.
Morning, Berlinda. How are you?
Good morning. I thought the meeting was at 8:30. I mean,
The
at
meeting
8.
is at 8:30.
Okay,
We're just in here setting things up. The recording's going, telling you that I apologize. I had to change venue and move this to Zoom. You have a little time to, I'm going to go do some jumping jacks and get some coffee.
okay,
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Talk with you soon.
okay, bye.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, that should be fine. Morning. Hold on one sec.
Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, Berlinda, where are you?
My backyard.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Robert, how are you?
Good, George. How you doing?
Good.
Still haven't gotten my jumping jacks out of the way, but I think we're getting there. This is good. Good morning, everybody, so far. Nancy, I think so Judy Wilson has full rights to run video and present her screen, right? There she is. Yeah,
Good
Judy, you
morning.
have full rights. You have full rights to run the video and share your screen. Yes.
I can't share my screen yet.
Oh, okay. I can start the slideshow if you'd like.
No, Nancy will give me permission. It'll be all right.
Correct. Correct. When she comes back, she'll do that. Great. Let me get the slideshow up. We have about, looks like 9 attendees. And 2 of those are some of us. Good. Berlinda, looks like you're on vacation. It's a nice background.
Yeah,
Thank you.
majestic,
I'm actually in my backyard right now. My
gorgeous.
dog-
Oh, that really is your
Thank-
backyard? That's not like a
Yes, it
backdrop?
is.
Wow, okay, so I am jealous.
No, it's not.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think that was the first thing I
morning.
said. I was like, wow, that's
Good morning, good morning.
majestic.
Hello, everyone.
Good
Hey, Good
morning.
morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay,
How's everyone today?
good, thank you.
Good
Mary?
morning, everyone. This is Nancy.
Hey, good
Judith
morning,
Wilson
Nancy.
has
How are you?
access to share the screen. However, please note that it's an all or nothing kind of deal. So to give her permission to share, everyone has access to share. So don't touch the share screen button.
Unless you're
That was
really
a
dying to
workshop.
share something great, please. Thanks.
Mary just text me that she is working on getting in. Her computer's a little slow.
Okay, yeah, mine was a little slow this morning too. Thank you. Dr. Martinez, thank you for that. Okay. Yes, so far we have about half the board, which is great.
Okay. Rain.
This is nice. We actually have about 13 attendees.
That's great for early Saturday morning.
I know, right? I'm hoping everybody got coffee. No, that's really nice. So we're at 8:32. We have about half the board. I know that Mary's waiting to get in, so I'm going to hold off just a couple minutes to make sure all the board members are here when we start, or as many as possible are here when we start. Yay, there's Mary. Are any board members aware of any other board members who might show up?
Would you like me to text anyone that we're waiting on?
There's Tom.
Nice. Okay.
I don't
It
see
pays to be
Nick or
pays to be
Bernard.
patient. Okay.
How we doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So who are we missing right now? And Bernard's there. Great.
Morning, sorry I'm late, guys.
No, it's all good. We were patient. We're thrilled that you're here. Thrilled that everybody's here. Great. So is Nick Feitros the only board member?
Yes.
Not present. No, we're missing 2 board members.
I believe we're missing Dave as well.
There it is.
Yeah,
Dave
Feitros.
Patrick. Okay. Mr. Gibbons, if you'd like to reach out and see if we can
No problem.
ask them to join us, that would be great. I'll wait to hear back from you in a minute. While I'm doing that, and Nancy, I will defer to you on that. We have about 12 attendees, which I think is wonderful. And if you wanted to go over the rules for when we come to the public comment session, if they'd like to go ahead and participate, they click on the hand, they raise their hand at the bottom of the screen, correct? I think Nancy's there.
Unmute.
Yeah, I'll wait till she comes back in a minute.
Good morning. So Carrie will cover that with her open publics meeting
Oh, okay.
statement.
It's baked in. Wonderful. Okay. Mr. Gibbons, how are we doing? Okay.
Yes, I just texted both of them and I'm just waiting for a response if there's a problem.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead.
Oh, here's Mr.
Ah.
Feitros.
There he is. Great. Okay. We're up to 9. I think that's doing pretty good. 90% is great.
If I don't hear from Dave in a second, I'll give him a call as well.
Okay. Appreciate that. So just to put out to the public, because we have a good amount of public in the meeting, which makes me very happy. I'm going to share my screen, which is the board agenda, before I turn it over to Ms. Grabstein for the opening of the meeting. So this is the agenda that's posted on the website and posted on the doors. I did want to briefly say that I was looking forward to being in person with everybody at Lincoln School. However, Lincoln School did have an exposure a few days ago, and out of an abundance of caution, I thought it best that we turn this meeting back into a Zoom meeting, so it was fully remote. So board retreat 8:30. Here are the members of the Board of Education. This is the agenda that we will be walking through in a few minutes. And I turn the floor over to Ms. Grabstein to read the introduction and start the meeting.
I think we need a salute to the flag first.
Oh, do we? Okay, hold on 1 second. Thank you for that. I'm going to start that because I always get frustrated that we don't have this in the
Terrific.
background. Salute to the flag. Go for it. I pledge allegiance.
I
Pledge
pledge allegiance
to the flag
to the flag
Of the United
United
States of America.
to the republic
Republic
which it
Which
stands,
stands one nation,
One nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with liberty and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Good morning.
Great, and good morning. We're all reminded why nobody performs music on Zoom. That was great. Thank you. Okay,
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ridgefield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Municipal Building, Board of Education offices, and district website. Public participation. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 3 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually, telephonically, or via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The business administrator, board secretary, will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order that their hand was raised. Roll call. Mr. Fernandez,
Present.
Dr. Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Seaman,
Here.
Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Phytros,
Barely.
Here.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Roselli.
Here.
Mr. Gomes,
Present.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Present.
and President Gibbons.
Here. Thank you, Mrs. Graf.
Also in attendance are Dr. Barry Haynes, Acting Superintendent, and Ms. Carrie Grabstein, School Business Administrator.
Great. Mrs. Grabstein, so much, thank you so much for introducing the
welcome.
meeting. I appreciate that.
Of course.
So in the agenda, we have the first public participation. So if anybody would like to say anything on public agenda items today, we are going to add to the meeting a second public participation near the end of the meeting today. So I'll give it a little time if any of the attendees would like to say anything before we start the meeting.
Dr. Haynes?
Yes.
Was the state monitor supposed to join us today or no?
The state monitor had all of the information to join us. I don't know if he's in the public comment. So Nancy, help me out. Somebody here has a raised hand. I'm going to promote to panelist. Yes. Mariel Gonzalez. You raised your hand?
Yes, I'm sorry, but Dr. Martinez actually asked the question for me. I was wondering where the state monitor was. Thank
So
you.
I know on July 22nd, on the first meeting, he wasn't here. So he has the opportunity to be here and join us. Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Gonzalez.
Any other public comment or questions? So everybody knows this meeting is being recorded. So Nancy, could you do me a favor? Oh, somebody else, no. Mary Lee, make Mary Lee an attendee. There, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start to set the tone. So thank you everybody again for joining us at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. Hopefully with some coffee and you had an opportunity to get out and do a little bit of walking or something. Oh, John Rafferty. John Rafferty has a question too. Just a minute. He should be coming in. John Rafferty, you should have a window on your computer that says accept to be panelist, which is promoting you. And it looks like he's not there anymore. Oh, there he is. Yep. Mr. Rafferty. You can unmute if you'd like to say something, Mr. Rafferty.
He's muted.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Rafferty, if you'd like to say something, please unmute. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Was the state monitor notified of the meeting?
Yes, the state monitor was notified of the meeting.
Okay, and we decided not to have the meeting at Lincoln School because of the construction?
No, I'm sorry. A few minutes ago, I said we had an exposure at Lincoln School, and out of an abundance of caution, I thought it best that we move this from that location to online.
Is there any reason we couldn't have had it at a different school?
We could have had it at a different school, but
Yes.
I was one of the people who was exposed. So I will again say out in abundance of caution. I thought it best that we have it on Zoom.
Well, a lot of the people feel that we're being denied the opportunity to speak because we get cut off.
So, Mr. Raftery, we have 23 people in attendance, which I'm very excited about. And you have the floor right now and you are speaking. So I think we're giving every opportunity that we can under the circumstances where we had an exposure to give our public the opportunity to comment as you are now.
I don't know why we couldn't have had it at another school.
I've noted that. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Raftery, thank you for your comments. I'm going to go ahead and open. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting.
Hey, Ms. Grafstein, are we supposed to be asking for their name and address for these public comments?
Yes, that's a good point. Mr. Rafferty, is he still there?
My time is up. My time is up. I can't speak. John Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Rafferty.
You're welcome.
Great. Okay, so last time we met, and that was July 22nd as a governing board, I was inspired by Judy, as I think many of you were. We had some wonderful follow-up conversations as a governing body. We talked about some of the content Judy talked about and some of the aspirational goals we have for the district. And those are the kinds of conversations that inspire me. And those are the kind of conversations that we will continue today. I am an ardent believer, and I'm going to share my screen out just for a second. You know, Judy always comes with this wonderful wealth of, because she's so well read, of literature and books. And one of my favorite authors is Edgar Schein on organizational culture and leadership. And one of my favorite takeaways from reading Edgar Schein, he's a professor emeritus at MIT, is leaders create cultures based on what they pay attention to. And to me, that's the focus of the enjoyment that we get to enter into conversations in today. What are we paying attention to? Meaning we can choose to focus on the day-to-day management or who's talking to who or what's on social media, some of the latest lawsuits, and those are all human nature. We all talk about those. But as Judy is going to remind us of our work on July 22nd, effective board members and high-functioning boards continually build capacity. They build capacity in themselves, they build capacity in the staff, and especially for the students. And to do this well, they attend to a few highly focused goals. Pay attention to systems thinking, such as the balcony slide that Judy will walk through again this morning. And they always act on behalf of the greater good. At the core of this important work are trust, clear communication, and caring engagement. They put the principles of good governance ahead of all else in their decision-making process. And with that, I turn the presentation over to Judith Wilson, who we are thrilled to be working with again. Thank you, Judith, for coming to us on a Saturday morning, and I look forward to attending your presentation also.
Well, thank you, Barry, and good morning, Ridgefield Park Board. You are amazing people. You're doing the hardest work that can be done right now in your community, I'm sure, other than those in our medical field. You are really attending to families and children, community and staff, and you're doing so at a time of incredibly high need. And while we thought that that might get a little easier heading into this fall, we know that it's not easier yet. So thank you for this Saturday morning time. Thank you for what you're doing on behalf of your community. I said when I was with you last time that, you know, you don't get enough appreciation or thanks. And I know you don't expect it. You're doing this selflessly for the greater good. But at the same time, it's a recognition of work that is very, very challenging. And we are now not in midsummer, right? We are sitting here on the eve pretty much of school opening. And every school district is wrestling with some of the common strands that you're wrestling with. But we're going to take a step back again today, and we're going to push a little bit more on some of the governance strands and governance mindset that we touched upon in July. And then we're going to like roll up our sleeves and think specifically about Ridgefield Park. We're going to think specifically about what should rise to the top of the work that you're doing now and why it should rise to the top of your priorities and how you can struggle for focus. And I say struggle not because you individually or you in Ridgefield Park would struggle, but because as human beings and as organizations, one of the hardest things we try to do is focus, right? And be persistent and stick with the work at hand that really will matter most. So that said, I welcome you all again. I'm very happy to see you. I certainly will miss the personal presence, but thank goodness we do have some technology to still move ahead in our work and in our learning. So be comfortable, kind of let your Saturday morning head sink into this a little bit. And I will say that while each of you comes with a mindset for learning, a will to do good, we each bring our own skill sets, opinions, experiences, naturally so, to the table. When you come to that table now and act as a team, right, the decisions that get made are decisions that are going to impact every child in your care, right, in your charge and in your care. And so we put on a little bit of a different hat than we do, you know, the individual in our homes with our own family or in a workplace or out and about in the community as a good neighbor. You come as someone wearing the governance hat. So let's just take a very quick sort of run through some key points that we shared in July. And then let's get to the business of what should your focus be, right? What should your goals be? And
Judy?
yes.
Just before you jump into that, just because I am ecstatically happy we have about 25 attendees, can you just, again, I know you did this on July 22nd for our board, but just go ahead and talk a little bit about your background.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I never do that. Okay.
That's okay. You did it last time, but I'd like to hear it again. Thank you so much.
So thank you. So Judy Wilson, I come to you as a learner and an educator. Most of my professional career was in New Jersey, 37 years. And for the last 7 years, I've been consulting with school districts in Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. I was a middle school teacher. My heart is still with middle school English students, I know. Supervisor of humanities and then an assistant superintendent for 13 years, personnel and curriculum side. And then 19 years as a superintendent, 10 years in Woodbury, New Jersey, the county seat of Gloucester County, a highly diverse community of fewer than 2,000 children. And then 9 years as superintendent in Princeton, New Jersey. Again, a highly diverse, although most people don't think it is, it's a very highly diverse community, great wealth, great poverty, 70 languages spoken in homes, and under 4,000 students. In the last 7 years, I have focused on governance, good leadership. And so most of my work is with administrators and board members across those 4 states as we work to not just stay current, but to stay focused. And I just don't seem to be able to give it up. It's just in my blood. So that's why I'm here with you this morning. And again, happy to be with you.
And we're very thankful. Thank you again.
So a little bit of a recap. And to some of you who were with us in July and those of you who are with us this morning for the first time, you had a chance perhaps to look at some materials, but I just want to say that I could be with you again and again and again in the next years, and we would look at these same kernels of not just research, right? Kernels of proven governance pillars that I would beg you to tether yourselves to, right? When you're challenged, when it gets rough, when it gets cloudy, when you're uncertain, I would really encourage each of you to sort of go back and just look at a few pieces here and tether yourselves to like, this is how I'm grounded, right? This is how we as a team with our superintendent need to be grounded. So let me just make sure that my screen is shared for you. Good, Barry? Let me get to present.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. Yep.
Okay. All right. So you have resources and they're there for you. And we had, I came loaded with books as always. A reminder that when any of us as leaders gets to the point of thinking, well, when we boil it all down, what does it come down to? What are we really charged with? I tend to land on these two phrases. You're charged with building capacity for those in your organization so that they can do better work. Student capacity, staff capacity, leadership and board capacity. Sometimes that means people need more space or different resources or professional development, different courses in the curriculum. Sometimes we build capacity mainly through the people we hire and the capacity that they bring, the people who have been with us for a long time and what we need to stay fresh and to stay at the top of our games. So building capacity, when you look at your board agendas, you're thinking like, through all these things that we approve, how are we building capacity and not just treading water or standing still? And of course, quality control. And while you don't have the direct say in evaluating how every person is doing or how every program is going, you hire the superintendent to create a web of quality control, to create a network and a system of quality control. So above everything, you want to be a learning organization. And that learning organization, as Sengi describes for us, is a place where people are always expanding their capacity. You're looking for new patterns of thinking that strengthen the work. And what we're going to work on today, you're thinking about your collective aspirations, right? We're human beings who want to grow, strengthen, increase our capabilities. We're people who have dreams and hopes, and we want to be a place where we can make those aspirations come to life. And a learning organization is a place where people are always learning to see, right? To look up and out, as I will share with you, to think that continual learning is the magic bullet, right? Continual learning is the key to however we get to improvement and better service. So I'm just going to flip through a few of these. You're well aware that the purpose of a school board is governance, not management, that you're not the day-to-day managers, that you don't exist to run the school system, you exist to govern the school system. So that means a focus on policy and goals. We did spend some time in July on these non-negotiables, right? You take an oath from the New Jersey School Boards Association, and you review that oath in public every year. So you understand, as individuals, no power away from the table. You're very careful about not holding meetings via email, discussions via email. You know your boundaries on what can be discussed if it's under any type of legal umbrella. You make no individual promises to any group or person. And you understand again that there are administrators who have roles, and those roles need to be worked to their fullest with high expectations, but you're not the administrators. Schoolwork is nonpartisan. Even if there were strands of politics in the campaigning or the election, once you take that oath, no more politics. This is about kids. Today is the work that we're going to do where you'll be asked to think systemically and long-term. A lot of times you are asked to think about what's important for tomorrow, like literally, how do we open school? What happens with a building? How are you expending funds? You're making decisions that will impact the short-term immediate. We're going to be thinking in that longer-term systemic work this morning. All does mean all. You are there for all children. You might have first run for the board because of an experience with your own child or a neighbor's child or a concern about a program or a tax levy. But once you take that oath, some morning, just stand outside a school building and watch every child get off a bus and walk into the building. Just watch their beautiful faces, just listen to their energy and conversations, and remind yourself that you are there for every single one of them, acting for the greater good. So I think I described this as one of my favorite terms, but we also looked last month at the research from social science that leads us to this saying where I am sharing with you again and again, like, get a grip. So reminding yourselves from time to time to get a grip, know the goals, the point of our work today, understand everyone's roles and what they're to do. Your business administrator, your superintendent, your principals, your AD, your teachers, your staff members in all the support roles they play. Think about how people interact and how you expect people to interact. That also means how you gather public input, how you engage with members of the public, how faculty interacts with administrators and with each other, the role support staff play. Like, what are the interactions of our system? And then do you have a process? Because it can't be the Wild West. You have to have a process, right? For decision-making, for community engagement, for budget development. There are processes that help you. And in the end, when you get a grip, things run smoothly. So we're going to move down a little bit here to what makes good governance. This was from Ram Charan's work. And again, I'm sorry, but this is like a speed review. So this was from Ram Charan's work when we talked about when to take charge. So every board needs to take charge, take the lead on the central idea. That's today's work. What are the central ideas that you will focus on as a board and have your entire system focus on? The selection of your CEO, superintendent. You take charge on board competence. And a lot of this falls to your president and vice president, but taking charge of board competence means making sure everyone's included, informed, all voices are heard, everyone's prepared, attentive. And it also means behavior, right? That you're modeling the behavior that you want our students to grow up with, that you want the rest of your staff to act upon. Board competence. Ethics and integrity, you come to the table with that, you hold each other to those high standards. And then you're in charge of negotiations with the contracts that govern all of your personnel. You partner on strategy and budget development. You partner on financial goals, how much to keep in capital reserve, how much to keep in fund balance, how to shift from do our goals align with do our finances align with our mission goals, right? If we say we really want to build co-curricular activities for students, elementary through high school. Have you shifted some funding to do that? Your budget tells a story, right? So every budget, we strive to reach the tax levy and reach a balanced budget, of course. But I'm going to encourage you to think every year when you create that budget and present it to the public, that budget tells a story about your values and your priorities. So always be thinking, if we say we need to get better at X, have we, even in small ways, realigned our budget to be able to make some of that possible? Budgets tell stories about what we care about and where the highest needs are. We're in a public school district, so we don't take risk with funds. We do take some risk on program development, though, and we want to think about that from time to time. Not excessive risk, not foolish risk, but just sometimes we have to be brave and courageous and take a step that might not be fully tested, and have a little bit of faith that there's enough research and thought into the proposal that we take a chance for the good of our kids. You certainly partner on talent development. That's in terms of hiring and in terms of professional learning for everyone. And you partner in this culture of decision-making. So again, this morning, we're going to be paying attention to that culture of decision-making, setting goals, and knowing with some degree of certainty that they are the goals that will be the biggest payoff for the children in your care. And the last part is the tougher part sometimes, when a board has to stay out of the way, should stay out of the way. That's in the execution, in the management, the day-to-day operations. You have full-time, wonderful people hired with expertise in their areas to execute the operations of each day, to execute in terms of the goals and in terms of the day-to-day functioning. So non-strategic decisions, they fall to your administrators. That's why you have them. That's why they're prepared. They need to be able to run the district, run the day-to-day operations, and attend to the execution of your goals. So bear with me and trust that I'm not going to just run on like this for long. All right. We know from research as recent as 2019 that in every case where high-performing boards help to make districts be high-performing, they are always thinking about their commitment of quality education for all children. And they understand governance. So what does that mean? Again, a big difference between politics and governance. Once you take that oath, you're governing policy, personnel, big picture. I'm going to skip that for a minute. You are thinking about systems. So today you're going to be thinking about pre-K through 12, how everything is enmeshed, how the gears have to mesh together to make things go smoothly, and that you understand that governance is a systems job. When you make a decision, nothing is in isolation. You're always thinking about how your decision impacts all of your stakeholders, parents, taxpayers, children, employees. And you're always thinking about the fact that it's hard to name a decision you'll make that doesn't have an impact on something or someone else, right? So we're thinking big picture and all of the gears together. Strategy. A lot of us are very good at administrating operations, tactical work. We're going to be thinking today about strategy. What moves us beyond August 2021 and not just into September of 2021. right? That's the operational piece, that's the tactical piece, that's the piece that your administrative team is working on. Not that they're separate from strategy, but they have to make those nuts and bolts happen. When we think about the work of governance being a strategic job, we need to be able to name the goals. We need to be able to make sure they tie to the mission. And we need to be able to make sure that those goals don't flip-flop and ricochet and change so often that they're slippery and nobody can even get a handle on them. Sorry. You're also thinking about a governance mindset of deep learning. This is hard. We are in a time in society where a lot of our thinking is superficial, emotional, quick. We want quick answers. We want things changed immediately. We know that there are urgent decisions sometimes. There are health and safety decisions that must be almost immediate. But we also understand that when we commit to the deep learning of how are we doing, how are we succeeding, where are we failing? And when I say failing, I just mean not succeeding, right? I mean, where have we not gotten traction? Where as a system, we need to get that traction. And the last is, of course, that you're modeling civic behavior. And, I would expect, I would see nothing but that in Ridgefield Park. It's hard. You do have to bite your tongue sometimes. You do have to restrain yourself sometimes, I'm sure. But you are the model in the community and for your children, for your staff, and you are modeling civic behavior as hard as it sometimes can be. So just a couple more. We're going to go to these positives. When you're doing that little driving down the road and thinking, geez, I volunteered for this job, I ran for this job, got elected. Some of you almost 25 years ago, some in the first year. And you are brave enough to ask yourselves, how's it going? Right? I go to all these meetings. How's it going if I step back here? Try to just do that little checklist of, are we focusing on governance, or are our discussions and is our time just being sucked up by things that are administrative, things that are not in our goal area, things that are counterproductive? What are we really discussing, and what are we really putting our efforts into? Is our board fully engaged? And are we focused on these strategic goals? Are we thinking strategically? In the big picture, are we thinking strategically? So, as Barry mentioned in his introduction, are you working always toward creating a culture based on what we pay attention to? When there's a set of missions, mission statement and a set of goals on a website, and everybody's like, woo-hoo-hoo, we developed these goals. We have a beautiful mission statement. Everyone worked to craft that language so carefully, and we rolled it out with a fanfare. And then that's it. People pat themselves on the back and say, like, job well done. And you might see it on your board agenda, or you might see it again on a website or a handbook, or something formal once in a while. That's only where the work begins, right? From your mission statement to the goals you're going to think about today. From those goals and mission statement, you create the culture and the climate and the systems, right? So it's more than just a climate of care or a climate of warmth or a climate of positivity. It's actually a culture of systemic thinking where we work with processes to get things done well, right? And that's true if we're talking about the third grade team. It's true if we're talking about an entire faculty. It's true if we're talking about the administrative team. Doesn't matter, and those are never separate. I don't mean to say there are walls among them. There are not. They're all creating culture together and with systems.
So Judy, is it okay if I pop in for a minute
Please
there?
do.
So last time when Judy started in July 22nd, she opened the workshop and she gave the floor to all of you and asked, to me was a wonderful question because it produced so many good narratives of what drew you to the board, what drew you to the board work. And each of you talked candidly and openly about your ideals and what drew you to this community of service to the board. So I was inspired by your stories and by the ideals that each of you had about the cultures that you talked about and about the vision for building the future for our children. Since then, we've talked individually and as a group about issues that we're drawn to pay attention to creating that culture. Things like universal pre-K or social justice or sustainable schools in New Jersey, or building additional CTE pathways for our students for college credits. And each one of these issues is a positive, as Judy just mentioned. They inspire an aspiration that we should pay attention to them. And in turn, build a culture and a capacity that nurtures our lifelong learning. Again, back to one of Judy's thoughts and goals. It inculcates a sense of lifelong learning and mandates that we build this culture to both nurture and build capacity for the future of our students. So that in my mind is our work today. It's to prioritize our aspirations for our students, to hold candid discussions as a governing body, and to create district goals that are best prioritized in a way that helps us pay attention to them, and in turn create a culture according to the best ideals that we envision for the future success of our students. Judy, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to narrate that.
Of course, of course, of course. So I'm going to ask you for a moment, as board members, to think about goals in your own lives, just for a minute, before we start to think about these school goals. So just chime in here, unmute and chime in. When you set a personal goal, how do you get to that goal and what do you do? Right, once you know what your goal is, what kind of things do you do? Or do you have an example to share?
Well, if I can jump in, I'll be the first one, Judy.
Thanks.
You know, an old boss of mine always says, start with the end in mind.
Yes.
And then you kind of work your way backwards of how am I going to achieve that? You know, if I'm investing, because I'm from a finance background, I'm investing, I say I want 20% return a year. Well, I'm going to break it down quarterly. How much do I need to earn quarterly? How much do I need to break it down monthly, even weekly or daily? You know, I think when we're thinking of goals, we need to think long term. That's where we want to arrive at. And what are the steps we're taking along the way? And how are we checking ourselves to make sure that we're actually achieving those steps?
Thanks so much. So starting with the end in mind and working backward with a plan.
Yep.
What else?
Well, just to bridge off Mr. Gomes that said having stages, planning out each stage along the way. I'm a big believer in you can't have, if you don't have a plan, your goal is just a wish. So I guess just planning out each step would be my way.
Yeah. Thanks, George. And I love that saying, right? A goal without a plan is only a wish.
Like George, I think you need a plan and develop a method to follow that plan, but also in that plan, you have to wait to identify probable setbacks and how to mitigate those setbacks.
Yes, because it's not all going to go as smoothly as what we write on paper. I think, yeah, Chris.
Yeah, kind of bouncing off everyone. Set your goal, work hard to get there, do research until your goal is accomplished.
So there's research there, and in that research, Chris, I know that would include not just knowing what's new and what's proven for us, but also like that big question about how's it going along the way, right? We have a goal, we have a plan, but how are we observing and measuring along the way?
I agree with I agree with Trustee Cathcart says, And when I have a goal in mind, I make sure that I develop multiple plans to get to that goal. Because as you stated, and Trustee Cathcart stated, there are going to be roadblocks. You know, there's sometimes, you know, there's a saying that, you know, there's pebbles, you know, along the road, whatnot, but sometimes rocks are being thrown at you. So if I am unable to take that path, then there is another path to reach that goal, and just to be flexible about it.
So I love that last term, Berlinda, too, about the flexibility that we can create beautiful, you know, I see schools create beautiful documents of roadmaps and action plans, and they should. I mean, I help people do that. They should. But if that is not a living document, because those pebbles and rocks come, right? If it's not a living document where we can have some flexibility in it and reassess, then we're in trouble. So I'm not an athlete. I come from a family of athletes. I'm not an athlete, but think those of you who are, I'm also not a musician, but those of you who are, you know that there are goals and plans about what you need to learn along the way, how you need to monitor your progress, you know, whether that's a timed event or a skill judged event. You know, we just finished Olympics. We watched these incredible folks. They had plans, right? They had goals and they had plans to a person, and they probably had a lot of flexibility even along the way in the last weeks. When we start out to do anything, lose weight, change our mindset, do anything more or do something less, you know, what's the plan? I have a still very young thinking 28-year-old son who would love to buy a house. And I say, yeah, you know, your dad and I did that in our early 20s because we did X, right? And he just looks at me like, that's hard. And I say like, yeah, guess what? That's really hard. And I'm happy to watch you do it and to talk to you along the way. But you have to have a plan that gets executed. You can't, you know, you just can't say like, we shouldn't be renters anymore. Okay, then what? Right? So it's in our personal lives as well. But Ricardo.
Yeah, if I could just add, I think sometimes we can lose focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And many people chase a goal that they think is, you know, they put their heart and soul into it, or they invest or take big risks and don't look at the long-term consequences to themselves or others. Yeah. And so I think it's important to look at a goal through multiple lenses, not just a microscope, but, you know, a telescope, binoculars, to make sure that you're not hurting yourself or others, or hurting your values in the process of getting that goal.
So a couple of really important points in what you said. First of all, being tethered to those values, right? Making sure that our work doesn't get warped along the way, and then we realize that it doesn't represent who we want to be. And the second piece of within the big picture always, right? And it's that systems thinking that takes us back to, we can't just do this on one path while everything else crumbles or frays. And we go like, whoa, what happened? Right? We did this one thing well, and everything else went by the wayside or began to fray a little bit.
I was actually going to say something like that. One of the things we do at work is reflection. So we set our goals, and then every once in a while we reflect on them. Okay, what is working? What is not working? What can we change? And we actually learn to work with others too. Sometimes it's hard to ask for that help or to lean on someone else to help you out.
Yes.
But sometimes that's exactly what you need to do.
And we're stronger together, always, right? We are stronger together when we can have critical thought partners, critical friends who can help us think through, always stronger together. Really fine points. So these all bear, whether it's an individual goal, a professional goal, organizational goal, these all come to bear on the thinking I'm going to ask you to participate in as we go through the next hour. So a couple of more points that you could have written all this research, right, from your own living experience as individuals and also from your professional experiences. But let's take it to the research for just a few minutes. And then we're going to segue right into Ridgefield Park, where you are today and where you might be able to go together. Okay. Let me just get back to that. And I might have to pull that up again. So Barry, can you pull that up?
Sure.
Hold on.
I'm on slide 30. You want me to go slide 31?
Thanks. I should be able
Sure.
to control it.
Bear with me a second. And
Here we go.
is that okay?
Yep, if you can go to present mode, that's great.
I think I can do that.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Daniel Goleman calls focus the hidden driver of excellence. And this is very hard for school districts. It's hard for individuals and other organizations, but through the lens of schools, there's so much going on and there are so many needs and we want to do it all at one time. And we know we can't disperse and dilute our energies or our resources. So how do we find that hidden driver of excellence? We first go to a small number of goals. I had a district one time hand me their latest version of a strategic plan and it had 61 goals in it. I didn't even know where to begin, right? So one thing they did was they made everything a goal, right? Every single aspect of their operations became a goal, not where we're headed. We want to look at 2 or 3 goals, right? That you can really sink your work into and devote your resources to. We also, in schools, I really don't know how to explain it, except I think it's really tied to this agrarian calendar where we stop work in June and begin again in September. And we fell into this trap. We fell into a trap of every year has to have new goals. Like we're going to open the year with convocation with all of our staff and our community and our parents. And we're going to say, these are our goals this year. And there might be a little energy around them for like a hot minute. And then in October, a few people will say, yeah, we talked about goals in September. I think they were. And then by January, no clue.
Judy, can I, just because it's such an unusual year and you so tickled me with that comment, I just wanted to come in to suggest that over the summertime, we've had about a quarter of our population of students and teachers in my mind, working on those goals, thinking about how we re-engage students and reacclimate them to, to school and how we move them forward. So again, over this summer has been so unusual, and we've had the luxury of having our students together with Meadowlands and dance and murals and all these great things. And I just wanted to give voice to that because it's been an unusual summer, and I think our goals have progressed.
And it will be an unusual September, October, right? You are bringing children back, some of whom haven't been with you in 18 months, some haven't been 2 years of kids, sometimes haven't been in the building they'll be joining, in the school building they'll be joining. There is a lot of reconnecting to be done. And so in the work I've done all summer with principals and central office staff, I've been urging, almost begging people to wade, not dive into this school year, because it is all about reconnection, right? It's all about these relationships. And without those relationships, none of this goal work will develop, right? So if we were to go in on the first day of school, kind of with blinders on and pretend that we're just opening like usual in 2019 and full force ahead, we adults need to reconnect. Staffs need to be rebuilt. It's a reset, right? It's definitely a reset point for us. So Barry, I'm glad you had so many children this summer because it will help. But I just urge people not to think that not to pay attention to this reset. You know, it's you've got to pay attention to it and realize that relationships and connections will matter more than ever, probably, as we wade into this work again. So you can't go off the high board into the deep end right away, like you want to do some years. So we fell into this trap of like new goals every year. What are the goals? What are the goals? Here are the goals. And no one monitored them along the way. No one brought them to life quarterly or monthly. No one celebrated when we did reach them. And then all of a sudden the school year fades away, and lo and behold comes the next September, and here's some new set of goals. And people become literally deaf to them. So we want long-term commitment to these goals. Sometimes there are things that we can accomplish in 4 months and celebrate, and it's done. Other times, though, the hard work, the deeper, more complex work, you know, you are talking 2, 3, 4-year goals. Not to kick a can down the road. You get working on them right away. But it might be 3 years before you can say, look at the huge impact we've had. Look at the big difference it has made. So you want to demonstrate progress along the way. And you want to celebrate success, right? Sometimes we forget to celebrate the small victories that happen along the way and build up to huge success. But we want to celebrate the small victories that we see also. So Barry, I guess I don't have control to move to the next one. There we go, thanks. So here we go. This is what we're going to work on. I think we've skipped one maybe. This is what we're going to work on this morning. We're going to look at goals that have these criteria. Now, these come from the research of Elizabeth City in her book, Strategy in Action. And they are particular to schools, but they probably apply everywhere. You want to test your goals. This is like the litmus test. You want to test your goals against these criteria. Are they all encompassing? Meaning, do they apply to all or almost all children? And if not, like who is included and who is not? So an anti-example, we're going to create, you know, an exemplary program for gifted and talented children in the 7th grade. That is a very small subset of your children, right? Just one grade level, just children of one criteria. We're looking for, does this vision apply to all? Is it multidimensional? Never, ever, ever does a school district want to have a goal that is tied to a test score. You know, we're going to raise the blah, blah, blah test scores by 5% or by 10 points, right? Because that's not what we're all about. We're not creating test takers. We want our children to fare well on their measurements. But let's take literacy. You know, the more important thing is that they're strong readers, that they're engaged readers, right? So we don't want a test score that's just, a goal that's just tethered to a test score. Is it clear? So you all know from your own professions, and certainly in the world of schools, that sometimes we tie ourselves up with jargon, or we create statements that don't hold meaning to our neighbor. So we want to be sure that when you set a goal and people hear it, they get meaning behind it. They can picture it. They go like, I know what you're working on. That's great. That's great work. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Sorry. Is it shared? Is it something that's not just 5 people's goal? There are few people who care about this, but is it something that your teachers, your parents, your taxpayers, and you can really get behind? That also means, do folks have voice? So it's not only can they get behind this goal, but did they have voice in shaping it, right? Do we know what they were thinking in the process of developing our goals. Is it enacted? So that means if you, let's say in August of 21, adopt a goal, in January, can you see the ways in which it's being enacted? And can you see that across your system, big picture, long-term, and in the daily work, in lesson plans, in faculty meetings, in professional learning, right? Is it alive throughout the district? Is it enacted? And the last is one of my favorites. Is it audacious, right? So we want to be bold without being ridiculous, right? Just the way you set personal goals. You want to be bold, you want it to matter and have an impact, but it can't be laughable, right? It just can't be laughable. It can't be craziness. But we do want it to be aspirational, worth striving for, and a stretch. So on the opposite end of it's ridiculous, we don't also want it to be a little tweak. Like we're going to put all this effort into this thing that's only going to get us this far, right? We don't want to just tweak something. So bold is our word, right? Bold, aspirational, worth moving toward. So two types of goals. This is our last section. You as a board, just board members and superintendent. It's a healthy thing, and your board president will probably guide you this way. It's a very healthy thing for you to have goals that apply to you as a unit. And those goals would be how you act as a board, right? How you communicate, the standards of civic behavior to which you hold each other, the way in which you function as a board. Also, finances and facilities are your business. They're your charge, right? We don't turn to the faculty at large to solve the facility problems or the finance challenges. They are your charge. You've got to figure those out from budget to budget and from year to year in terms of your facilities plans. So we're going to fence those off. They belong to, that's the work that belongs solely to the board. Now, obviously, if you have a referendum, you know, you need to engage a lot of people, but you've done the work of determining there needs to be a referendum, forming a referendum question, and getting it out to the public. Board business, how we act as a board, finances, facilities. We're going to shift, and the work of this morning is about these systemic strategic goals that apply to the entire district, right? This is the work. They're tied to your mission. They're tied to the core work of why everybody shows up every day, which is students. And they are about building capacity for students and the adults who serve them, right? They're the strategic goals of the district, how we get better and better at attending to the mission and the core work. They apply to the school level, the grade levels, the departments, and the individuals who you employ. So when we talk about these 2, 3 core mission goals, everybody owns them. Every adult in the system owns these goals. Every adult in the system can impact these goals and influence the work in one way or another. So I'm going to suggest that you've been just so engaged and attentive for about an hour and 10 minutes, that you take like 4 minutes, 5 minutes at most. So that would be by my clock here at 9:43. We're going to come back together, but fill your coffee cups, get your water, move your bodies, and come back ready to think about what these goals might look like as we engage with each other around the topics. Fair? Okay, thanks, folks. 9:43.
Judy, did you want to take the slideshow back or do you want me to continue with it?
We only have 2 more slides. If you just want to continue, Barry, we'll
Sure.
go to that last academic year.
That'd be great. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and put the slideshow back up.
So thanks for coming back, everybody. That's always a risk, right? That's always a little bit of a risk. So we'll go to the next one, Barry. Thanks. And do we have everyone? I'll wait a few more seconds.
I am back. I know. I'm sorry that I'm having some troubles with my my camera.
Yeah, no problem. We're glad you're
Apologies.
there. Okay, great, super. So thanks, everyone. Everybody needed a little stretch, I know. So time to think about Ridgefield Park today. And you've been through a lot, right? We've all been through a lot. And there are many, many, many pressures upon us, and there are many needs. And that's not going to change. Need to look now a little bit narrowly at just your community, just your school district, and to think about where efforts, it's hard to think that any efforts were very sharp, right, in the last school year. But if you thought about this 18 months ago, when you thought about this 18 months ago, this was the thinking at the time heading into last year. And there was some really good rationale around it. And I'm going to ask you to share some of that. So heading into last year, think about March of 2020. It's hard to think, right? I'll tell you that in March of 2020, I was with my brother and sister-in-law for a week in Florida. And it was just as the nation was starting to be aware of COVID, and things had not shut down yet. My husband and I were scheduled to fly home, and we did. And my brother said to his wife, you know, Annette, like, they're talking 3 weeks. Let's just wait it out here. And we just roll and laugh about that right now. Here we are, you know, a year and a half later, of course. Only laugh about that one little line, not, of course, about everything else that has unfolded. But at the same time, you were thinking about what are the 2021 goals for Ridgefield Park, because no one could predict, right? No one had the last 18 months as part of their strategy and part of their systems understanding. We just had to respond as we went along. So some things did get sidelined or minimized or paused. True for all of us. And a lot changed. But at that time, you had in pretty sharp focus these 4 understandings as goals. The first was your social justice curriculum. And you actually wrote it in this way: building social justice capacity for the classroom, infusing respect of diversity in our school culture. In essence, your social justice goals were closely tied to your social and emotional learning goals. And you were a bit prophetic in that since that time, the national organization that provides most of our research, a lot of our research around social and emotional learning, called CASEL, has indeed blended the social and emotional important work around diversity, inclusion, and equity in the social and emotional learning work. So there was an understanding in the spring of 2020 that there was a deep need to sharpen this work across the district, pre-K through 12. You also had an understanding at that time that there was a need to support remote instruction, right? And that clearly quickly unfolded from the middle of March last year, thinking that that would be only last spring a need, and then getting a clear understanding that we would be in hybrid mode for all of 2021. So I'm just going to say that supporting remote instruction was absolutely necessary. The work had to be done. We had to attend to it well. It was strategic because suddenly we had children in different learning modes than we're typically used to having everybody in front of us, right? And it was imposed, right? It was imposed. It wasn't you thinking like, gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if our school district offered different modes of learning? We were in a crisis situation and had to quickly design ways to provide as well as we could instruction in hybrid mode. The third piece you were thinking about last spring was how to use data analysis to improve instruction, to personalize instruction, to strengthen instruction for every child. And you had tools in place or about to unfold. Linkit, Envision Math, multiple tiers of support processes ready to go in order to really use that data analysis to help children make good strides, right? And not just tread water. And the last strand that you were thinking about in spring of 2020, I think it's actually flipped here. Obviously, rigorous programming under this big label. And let's just be clear, whenever we use the word rigorous in schools, that we're talking about quality and not quantity, right? Rigorous doesn't mean like pile on more homework or have more tests or read 16 more novels, right? Rigorous means the quality and the set of expectations we hold are rigorous for kids, wherever they are in their learning continuum, helping them stretch. So the emphasis at that time was on how to expand, especially your secondary programs, for more pathways to college, more pathways to career. How do we get dual credit at the high school level for classes? Just how do we expand our career and technical education? They were your buckets. So I'm just going to call them buckets. They were your 4 big trending areas of discussion and focus. And you had rationale for them. You certainly had faculty engaged in all of these areas, professional learning aligned with these areas. And I'm going to say, for the time and for the last 18 months of what Ridgefield Park has experienced and also what the world has experienced, that you were in good shape, right? You were starting to get a bead on strategic goals. I don't think that, I think because we were all like walloped and turned upside down, I don't think that it was possible to get deep traction. I don't think it was possible, feasible to have crisp action plans or measurements in place in this last full year of school, right? We were in a very different place that we had never experienced. So let's think now about what moves forward, what was just paused and is still just as important or more important than ever. What really is strategic? Is there something missing? And where we might go. So Barry, the next slide, please. As we sit here today, knowing what you know today, your superintendent has given this to you to think about this morning, and this is what we're going to work with. The suggestion is that the work on social justice and SEL curriculum for pre-K through 12 is just or more imperative than ever. And we can get better traction and develop action plans around that. And they can be measurable and we can see an impact in the lives of our kids and in their academic work if we focus on that goal. The second recommendation is, you know what, this thing is with us. Remote instruction is with us. We've learned a lot. It's built in now. It's a given. It is going to continue. We're going to keep learning, but it doesn't rise to the level of a district-wide strategic goal. It's going to be the work. It's like built in right now. The third recommendation is that if the district continued to get really adept and skillful at data analysis and used it in designing instruction, that it would matter greatly to your children. I mean, think reading and math primarily. The fourth recommendation is to kind of revise that goal around rigorous programming in order to really focus on the career technical education programs and expanded pathways to college and credit options. My and is what is missing here. So on the next slide, we'll see the possibility of really thinking about the need for early childhood work. Now that might mean universal pre-K as an action step, but where is the need in terms of pre-K, early childhood? And when we think early childhood, we think of everything up through first grade. And the second piece is where is the need to advance the work in Ridgefield Park around ELL and ESL learning and education and our ELL learners. You have on the books a resolution from last school year that the board approved to strive toward sustainable schools work. So I'm just going to be really clear with you that scares me. Okay, now I am all about sustainability. So I am all about curriculum and experiences for our students that help them understand climate change and their role in the world and their carbon footprint and how to make decisions as consumers. And I'm all about you making sure that you're using energy well in your buildings and that there are gardens, all of those pieces, right? But just what I said is huge, huge. And if you look at the criteria for being awarded recognition as a New Jersey sustainable school, it's exhaustive. It's really comprehensive work and it's really great work. I'm just putting it out here that if you decide to take that on as one of your district-wide goals, you need to be prepared to dedicate a lot of time, energy, and money toward it, it is worthwhile. I'm going to ask you to ask yourselves, is it one of the most important things you could do right now? Is it one of the most important things you could say to your faculty? This rises to the top of 2 or 3 things that we should be working on feverishly for our kids. The goals that you end up with need to tie to your mission. And there are 16 other examples off the top of my head I could give you that would be worthwhile, interesting, engaging, meaningful, just as sustainable schools are. You need to think about what is most imperative. Think in terms of high leverage, right? Think in terms of high impact, right? Where the needs are in your school district right now. Now, you have some data. You certainly have achievement data. You certainly hear from parents. We know that your faculty can, off the top of their heads easily, because they live it, breathe it every day, see the deep needs that are in front of them and what they believe would be the biggest payoff of work for your kids. I'm going to ask you now, and so Barry, we can leave the slideshow now, please. I'm going to ask you now, just as individuals, not speaking for each other or for the whole board, what do you hear? What do you see in data? What do you understand as the concerns from your students and parents within the district? What do you see as the greatest needs? If you were the only person setting these goals, what would you want to see these goals be? And never more than 3. But if you even put 1 out there, what's not on this list? And what do you see? If you said, like, I have the power to wave the magic wand, and I have the power to say, from what I know today and what I understand, I believe this is what the work of the district should focus on. So anybody want to throw a few things out here for us?
I think social emotional learning is probably the most important thing coming back into the new school year, especially as you said, students have been out sometimes up to 2 years, and it's so important for students to come in and be happy and be welcomed, and to have a sense of normalcy. And I think that's a very important goal for us to have.
That reconnection. And in any given year, you know, our children, even us as adults, as learners, we only learn where we are comfortable and welcomed, where we feel a sense of belonging, right? We want every child walking into Ridgefield Park every day to feel a sense of belonging and to have at least one adult with whom they connect and trust. So that importance of the SEL work. What else? If you were saying, like, this rises to the top for me.
I would add, if I could.
Please.
You know, I think the social emotional learning, obviously, I agree with President Gibbons that is very, very important. I think it's on everybody's radar because our teachers are going to need it coming back to the classroom after 18 months.
Adults, just as
administrators, the parents are going to have a big shift in sending their kids back to school. So I think that's kind of baked into education inherently right now. If I open up the lens a little wider, you know, I got on the board because I wasn't happy with the quality of support that we were giving our teachers, and it was trickling down to the quality of education that our kids were getting. And I think test scores, it's true, test scores are one indicator of it, but if you went by that indicator, we weren't doing too well. And if you go by the on the ground indicator, you know, as a parent and a person who values education, you know, to the point that my wife is irritated with me going back to school, you know, I didn't think that there was that much adherence to curriculum. I felt like, you know, one of my kids read the book, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, in 3 different classes year after year. And so I felt that the quality of education that our kids were getting was not adequate. So that to me rises to the top, because I think that's the ultimate function of a school system.
Yes, thank you.
Judy, can I, because Dr. Martinez, I appreciate and respect your comments. Can I pull on it just a little bit more? I think I heard the support that we're giving to our teachers. And I'd just love to hear you talk about that a little bit more, to give me a bigger sense and better understanding.
I think that people get into education because they want to teach kids, and they love that feeling of when a kid gets it. And when that's not happening in a district, I blame in order, the community, the board, administration, and trickles down. Because, you know, I think teachers get broken. Teachers get they ask for equipment, they don't get it, they get told no. They ask for training, they don't get it, they get told no. They watch people rise and not based on merit. And I think that teachers get disheartened and they burn out. And the fact that I had about 4 or 5 teachers in my wedding party. You know, education is very big for me. I've seen teachers get broken. So I don't blame them, I blame the people above them, including myself as a part of the public.
I appreciate the ad. Thank you.
Other thoughts, areas that you say, I live, eat, and breathe Ridgefield Park, and I understand that our needs need to be focused on, or I would like to see our work focused on.
If I could just step in, I think that definitely what both Dr. Martinez said, President Gibbons said, it is getting the kids back and prepared again for the next step. I know that it was a difficult time, the remote learning. I think my oldest son was up at Marist when he had half a semester with in-learning, and then it went remote. And one of the things that really hit me was, he said some of his best teachers that he loved, they just weren't prepared as remote. And it is a different and challenging thing to do, is to teach when you're not really physically in the room and seeing. So getting these kids confident to get back. I know that seems like we're taking a step back, looking at the mask. I would love not to see them. I know that's a delicate subject, but I think so many kids have hearing losses that they don't realize. So being able to see physically the teacher speaking helps them understand, but it always gives a better understanding for these kids. So I just really would, if I had the magic wand, that would be one of the things. Get right back and get these kids back set and get them ready for the next step in life.
Reconnected and paying attention to that social and emotional.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Tom. Other thoughts, and what is not on that list of recommendations? Is there something that's burning, that's not in that core yet of those 3 or 4 topics?
Well, I'm hoping that in those 3 or 4 suggested, especially towards the last one, that it has stuff built in there for our special needs populations. I mean, they're going on a different path. Most of them are not going to be going, with college to dual enrollment type classes. So we should be building in a lot more to have a strategic plan to get them to the point of when they do age out of schools. I know we're doing some stuff, but I feel we can do a lot more for our special needs kids.
Yeah. And I think that is very much a piece of the multiple pathways toward career in college, right? Very much part of.
And that's my hope, that it's built in there for them specifically, not just they'll benefit from it, but specifically for them, this is built in there.
Yeah, thank you. And we know so much more. Like, when you think about special education services in New Jersey, if you think back decades when children didn't go to school beyond 8th grade if they had educational disabilities, and now not only 21, but how we can prepare them for independence beyond 21. It's pretty remarkable, right? We know
Yes.
what's possible.
Yes, definitely.
The summer program through the Meadowlands included many of our special education students and students with IEPs. When during the presentation, you had mentioned New Jersey sustainability. Yes, is not an easy task obtaining certification, but a lot of those activities are already embedded into the standards.
Yeah.
So, and in addition, it was a resolution that was passed over a year ago. So one of the concerns, I was going to say issues, concerns that I have as a new trustee is that in the past, resolutions were passed, but they were never executed. They were never followed through. So it's just, what is the point? Is it just for us to say, we passed it? That's great. For example, social justice. And when we talk about the social justice resolution, it includes everyone. It includes students with disability, students from different cultures, different ethnicity, different backgrounds. So it's not, it includes all children. So yes, New Jersey sustainability is not an easy task, but it's already done in the classroom. And I currently have children in the school here in the school here in Ridgefield Park, and my children are doing the work.
Yes.
The teachers are working hard.
Yeah.
They are doing the work. So why not get recognition for something that's already done, that's already in the standards?
So I think that point is really good. And here's my only challenge to think about as a board. As I said, I think these activities, they're in the classrooms, right? They're in your schools, they're in your clubs, they're in your summer programs. If you are far enough along that you take a really hard look at that, like how to get that stamp, right, as a New Jersey sustainable school, and you think you're within doable reach without turning yourselves inside out or taking money from other academic programs, forge ahead. If you look at that and say, we would like very much to continue on, it's almost like STEM also, right? We would like very much to continue on the integration of sustainable standards for all of our children and have that exposure in those activities. That comes with lesson design. And I'm just asking you to think about supporting this, absolutely. Continuing the standards, absolutely. I'm asking you to think about the difference between making the seal of achievement the goal, right? Because that takes, I think, another level of work and money. So just look at that, right? Your point, Berlinda, about resolutions, I couldn't agree with more. Don't make resolutions without action plans, right? Don't adopt resolutions without action plans. They're just like feel good, right? So your social justice resolution, powerful, meaningful, needed. You just always need to say to yourselves, now what action does that call for? Right? Other than just like we passed that resolution, we're like, we are supportive of. So is the sustainability work great work? Oh my gosh, it is. It really is. And look at the schools that have reached those, like, I think they're called green standards, gold standards, but look at those standards. They're amazing. My only point is you only have so much money and energy and focus to put along. And if I were one of your parents or one of your community members and sustainability was there, but I'm just going to pick this one, early childhood work wasn't, I'd be saying, where are their heads? Just want to say that, right? That we want, like, yeah, if it's a yes and, great. But if it's pick something other than sustainability. If it's again, a slice of a program, we're only going to work on athletics, right? For that, I would be saying like, whoa, love athletics. They keep a lot of kids engaged. They do a lot of good in the world for our children, but right, not if we're not.
I wonder
Would it
if,
be, sorry, would it be a possibility to share the screen, to share that presentation, the suggestions? I just wanted to see something,
Yes.
please.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Dr.
No, no, no,
Martinez.
absolutely. Dr. Martinez?
oh, as you do, I guess. Brenda, I'm wondering if, and let me know if this is not the proper venue for this discussion, but I wonder if Berlinda, if we in the faculty and programs committee come up with a new resolution that is a little broader in scope, rather than just being New Jersey sustainability, we could have a resolution that's broader, in which New Jersey sustainability could be one of the factors, one of the things that we chase, but that doesn't prevent us from doing a bunch of other green initiatives that bring us closer to New Jersey sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, I see, I understand what you're saying. I'm not understanding why New Jersey sustainability would be a district goal when it's already in the curriculum, when it's something that we already have to do. It's in the resolution. So that's why I wanted to read again the suggestion by the Acting Superintendent to keep goals, social justice, SEL, because when you talk about the activities and New Jersey sustainability, a lot of the activities falls under the SEL curriculum too. And so why develop a goal that is that has to be done? It's like developing goals, about we're going to create like the curriculum,
That's a
or
good point.
no, that's something that we have to do anyway. So why put it as a goal when it already is in the curriculum, is already in the SEL curriculum?
I agree.
And I was just looking at revised rigorous program goal to focus on CTA.
If I can just say something, Berlinda, I think we have to check also like the Meadowlands program that we did. I think we did it with a grant, and that might be a one-time grant. So we really have to look at how we're going to fund some of these activities going forward.
It happened in the summer, so I believe we have to look at the window. So whatever activities that happen in the summer may apply for next year if the district decides to go ahead and submit submit for certification. And it's not only about certification. That's not it's not only about getting the badge. It's about it's just about learning. It's about including all children. A lot of these activities is multisensory. It's about hands-on. It's about reaching all types of learners.
Yeah. So I think Berlinda, maybe you're helping me clarify my original statements in that my point was all of that is so worthwhile and built in, but is the goal the badge, right? Is the goal the award of we are this district, we got this recognition? And does that rise to the top of being a strategic goal for the district? Or is it, we really do believe in this, it's embedded in our classroom instruction, we understand the standards, we're working on it?
And if we really do believe it, if it's embedded in the curriculum, it's already in the standards, so it would not be won't be a great task when submitted, because all the artifacts will be there. So it's just putting it all together.
I think where I'm not clear, Belinda, is I don't know enough about the actual submission of the application. I don't know enough to know, and I shouldn't know enough because I'm not one of the administrators. You're in education, so you probably know better. How much is this going to actually cost us? I sense a hesitation on the part of the administration, but I sense that you also know a lot about this and about the actual details of what it would take.
So I have a suggestion. Go ahead, Barry, and then I have a suggestion about process that I think might help.
I want to hear that, because I was going to make kind of a suggestion about process too. You first, please. I'll always defer to you, Jim.
I'm just thinking that before you consider as a board making or keeping Sustainable New Jersey as a specific goal to reach, right? To like hit that mark, get that recognition. Before you do that, just in-house, do an analysis of like, here are the requirements. This is really solidly in place. And when I say solidly in place, I serve another district, not with the sustainability work, but that has done the sustainability work. And I know that they've reached really great heights with everything from the analysis of their energy use and their solar work and their conversion of buses and all those things also, right? So why don't you do a quick in-house analysis of this is where we are, and is it that the resolution is really important and we want this work to be part of our pre-K to 12 experiences for children? Absolutely. Or is it that we really want to go after this recognition and be, awarded and labeled as a sustainable district? And that will tell you, like, that will guide you, like, yep, we want this, we want these experiences, we want this educational piece, and we're ready to also make all of these, facility, transportation, energy changes, all of those things as well. So I think just a quick in-house analysis. How far along are you really already?
I do think, if I could just comment also, I would be really hesitant to let this fall off without replacing it. Only because, in particular, the world is on fire right now.
The world is on
half
fire.
the world is on fire and half the world is in the water.
Yeah.
And, my kid has looked at me and said, what did you guys do?
Yeah. So has
And I think that, our school is built on a swamp that might be underwater if we don't start to be part of the solution. So I'm really hesitant, as Belinda is, to let the specific goal go without replacing it.
Right.
So Ricardo, I didn't know that our school might be underwater. I feel like I have a lot on my plate, and the more I listen, the more it expands. So
That's my opinion. I'm not a geographer in any way.
No, it's okay. I just need to give a little bit of voice and maybe some context here, because Berlinda brought the Sustainable Schools resolution to our last curriculum meeting, or subcommittee, faculty and programs. And I was really appreciative. I hadn't seen it before then. And it's a personal bias of mine, and I don't mind telling everybody, right? My son went through NJIT. He wants to get a job as an industrial designer to help global gases and green footprints and all those sustainable things. And he'll be great at it, as will a lot of kids in our district, K-12. And the town already has the Gold Award. So opportunities for us to partner with the town of what's going on and use those as rich, organic, nurturing experiences for our kids to learn from are endless. They're building a sustainable pathway through the marsh next to the high school. And I told the town planners, I want pictures of those. I want our kids to be able to go out there, hopefully with hard hats, to watch what's going on. It's going to take the next 6 months to a year. Those are opportunities in our community that every student should have the opportunity to be exposed to, and they all fall under sustainable schools. So I'm an ardent supporter. Maybe, and Judy, help me with this process. I don't know why those opportunities, like the Meadowlands, which the board will hear about in the August meeting, the two summer coordinators will give you a slideshow of the Meadowlands and what we achieved and what our students did. Why don't we plan quarterly or 6 months the engagements and opportunities and learning activities that our students did throughout the year that relate to Sustainable Schools New Jersey? Because I think our community would be stronger because of that, just presentations. And so that you have a sense of where we are. But I would go back to what Judy said. When I think about, it's my job to think about every single individual student. How do we build their capacity and increase them? And when I think about Sustainable Schools New Jersey, it's really important that maybe there are some other things more important for every single student.
And that doesn't mean walk away from that work or those standards at all, right? But again, these are choices and decisions. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I don't want to see you with 6 or 7 goals. Because you've got to be able to do these all well and get that focus with you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Wilson, but just the last comment on sustainability. I've heard Dr. Haynes make great comments on revitalizing the gardens that we already have, buildings. Going back, we could go back to Lyndhurst, the Bergen County Environmental Center, to continue these goals. As Berlinda said, we could do more, and we have done a lot already. So, I understand what you're saying, and I think it is very important, whether it's one of the main goals or not. It is still a goal.
Critically important. Okay. When you think about your early childhood education work and your ELL work, Barry, would you speak to both of those a little bit, just in terms of where you see the district right now?
So yeah, when it's presenting, it's hard to get to you. So as I've been in the community for more than a year, one of the reoccurring themes that I hear from community members, teachers, administrators, board members is we're a community that has a lot going for it. And I really appreciate that, because that's right on the money. Our socioeconomic status is decent, and our test scores don't necessarily reflect that. And how can we improve that? And that's something I think across the board that people have said. And so when I think about the test scores around grades 3 and 4 dropping off for ELA and math, and I think about what the research says as far as that, a lot of that points back to, well, what happens in those formative years? What's happening in pre-K grade 1 and 2? Because pre-K 1 and 2, because those are the years that our students are exposed to. And Judy, you can speak to this, more than 1,000 words of vocabulary, right? They develop rich language skills. They develop a joy and love of reading and language. They develop math concepts. And when we think about some of those children have the opportunity to develop those skills in pre-K and some don't, in my role, I think then we've advantaged some of our students and maybe disadvantaged others. How do we give all students an advantage through pre-K? And so it's building that capacity that what I've interpreted is important for this community. And I put that out there for comment of board members. Uh-oh, was that scary?
I think that's a great comment, is that, starting young, it's never, you're pointing out the fact that, it's never too young to start, and getting these kids with the right habits and study habits and getting their vocabulary and everything starts at the young age. And, a lot of times, we don't see that. We kind of just see, well, school, a lot of people always say, well, school doesn't start until 7th, 8th grade type of thing. Or till high school, when you got to start taking college courses, if you don't have those habits. So I think that's a outstanding point, that we have to start right off the bat. Well said.
Yes, and I agree with that, especially with our special needs population. The most crucial points of their lives are in the youngest, earlier years of their lives. And we have to continue, teaching life skills, our curriculum that's been brought in, and especially, as you said, pre-K, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade are the most important for our students. And I thought that was a great comment as well.
Most brain development between 0 and 5.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of pre-K and universal pre-K, and also inclusion. We have to give options, and I think that this district does not provide options. We have self-contained classes, we have an inclusion class, but how about the other students who are not included, that do not, how about like the general ed? There aren't any placements for just a general ed other than the inclusion class. And there's a lot of districts that do have universal pre-K, that do offer the services. And as you stated, the first couple of, 5 years is when the brain is developing. And I personally think it's a investment into the future. And if And we have to support the teachers and also support the parents and the family and the community too. Parents might not have the option to put their child in a pre-K classroom.
Linda, I wanted to thank you all for pushing on this issue so much, because, you know, I've learned a lot about it, and I've kind of done some research myself and really thought about it. And the truth is that, you know, the other factor that I'll add is that, you know, our families right now are you know, dual earner families and or single parent families. And so the opportunities, and as a parent myself, I'll tell you, the energy to sit on the floor and read to your kid as much as we should is just not there. And I think that this is something that is eventually going to be mandated. I think it's going to eventually be part of education. And if we can get ahead of it by a year or by 10 years, I think we should. So I just want to thank you for really pushing on this issue.
You know, I'm a supporter. It's what I do. So, but the one thing we do also have to work on is where we're going to put it.
Right. So that, right.
Can I interrupt for a second? I've lost the video here, but I can hear you.
Oh, good.
Barry, at our meeting with you and I and Ricardo, we discussed pre-K, but working with community partners. Can you expand on that a little?
Barry, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. You're so good to me. So there are models out there, and the state actually has current grants for this.
And more money coming.
And more is coming, especially from the federal level. I think everybody on the screen would understand that every time these initiatives come up, I have to think about time, energy, what we put into it. And this would require a lot, like the feasibility study for pre-K that you've already asked about. What does it take for universal pre-K? And so some of that feasibility study needs to go look at models that are currently out in the state of New Jersey. My favorite one is Morristown. So Morristown partners with the pre-K organizations and childcare centers that are currently in their neighborhoods. So they don't need any more space in their buildings. They partner with those classrooms, and the state of New Jersey is very much supportive and proponent of this. And then they provide the curriculum, the professional development, the benchmark assessments, the universal assessments. And so those teachers really become an extension of your district to be part of your district in offering universal pre-K. So I'd love to, I've heard both, can we please set up a feasibility study? And I've heard feasibility study of a feasibility study. I think we need to just do this, get a feasibility study so we can figure out the models that are out there, what grants there are, and as Judy would say, make up a plan and a process forward. Dave, did that answer what you wanted me to?
There are great models across our state with partnering with community preschool agencies, really good models. And so they're at hand. Money is available. A lot more money is going to be focused on universal pre-K in the next years. And I would hate for you to miss that opportunity, right? If you're not teed up in just thinking about it, then I don't want you to be unprepared for the option to jump into a grant application or a funding application either.
And Judy, I'm sorry, Dr. Martina, I just want to come back to, because I don't want us to get in the thinking, because I've heard it, we don't have the capacity in our schools. I think looking at other models in a feasibility study, we can move beyond that mindset for our community, for the betterment of our community. Dr. Martinez.
Would this goal then look like something saying that we will have a plan by X date as to what we're going to do with universal pre-K?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think if we can get to the goal statements today, that we, especially your administration, can come back in a very short turnaround time with, here are the 3 steps that have to happen first, right, to dig into this goal right away. And so one would be, looking at models, determining funding streams, right, and then a timeline.
Well, we would have to assume that this is a multi-year goal.
Yes.
I mean, we're not going to achieve this in 1 year.
These are all multi-year goals.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And as we discussed at the beginning, as you discussed at the beginning of the presentation, that the goals, it just does not end in June, you know, they could be long-term goals too. Just because the new school year doesn't mean that we're going to throw those goals out the window. Maybe we might have to tweak it, but that all depends.
It could be like a long-term goal, and then this year we'll achieve this part of it. We examine at the end of the year. Next year we go in, okay, this part of the goal we're going to work on this year, and just work it like that.
Exactly. Your action plan will be broken down by timelines, right? So that you know, like in 6 months, we would like, in 12 months, we would like to be here, here, here.
And
Judy,
Judy, I
if I can
think-
just one more
not-
thing. If we go back to the original discussion, it's called planning.
Yes. It's an action plan, right?
Yes.
It's an action plan so that your goal isn't just a wish and that time doesn't flip through your fingers and you say, well, here we are 2 years from now, still discussing the feasibility of expanding our pre-K options.
Right,
Or
and any following board would have a protocol to follow with a good working plan.
yes. So
It almost needs to be Gantt charted and based on how this process goes along. And then it has to be revisited on a regularly scheduled basis to examine where we are, why we're not where we want to be, based on the chart, based on our plan. And if we're ahead of goal, address that issue and see how we can continue the process and keep moving momentum. I think it's got to be, as much as we plan it out, as part of the saying this is the goal, we really have to make sure as part of the goal that we really revisit the entire plan on a regular basis to make sure that we're being consistent in the plan and the process.
I think, Judy, last time in our first session, you said administration should be giving us like a quarterly report on these goals and where we are. I mean, that was one of the points you made.
you're absolutely right on all counts, both gentlemen. There has to be a project plan, right? That's your action plan, your project plan that has benchmarks, and the communication plan to let everybody know what we're working on, how we're going, how's it working, where we are with it, and then formal reporting at board meetings, right? So that's another reason why we're not going to look at 6 and 7 goals, right? We're talking
well,
serious, deep work.
Right. Dr. Martinez, I think you were going to say something.
I just, you know, I want to steal your line and say what I'm hearing is that we're no longer talking about if, we're talking about how. And I think that that's really positive movement. That
Okay.
we're all in agreement.
So I want to add 2 things to the discussion because in my role, they're really important. One, this is how you hold this role accountable too. And this excites me because I think Nick used the term a Gantt chart because it gives me an opportunity to plan it out, look at a Gantt chart and say, report back to the board. And in so doing, you holding me and us and our community accountable to meeting those. That's exciting. Those are exciting opportunities for me. And the second one, it goes back to Judy, what you just said was, it is my favorite line. We create cultures based on what we pay attention to. If we choose 3 things, we pay attention to those things. If our community comes back and says, this is really important to us, we say, we've committed to these things. I hear what you're saying, but we need to focus our energy, our time, our labor, our mindset on these 3 things. It allows us to focus and do really good work. So the 7 goals, obviously, there may be 4 worthy goals, but we as a community decide this is what's important to us. This is the culture we're creating. This is what we focus on.
So the piece about using tools well, I'm going to say that use of data it's very important, and it's the work of your principals and your faculty. Is that strategic? That's my question to you. Do you consider the use of data? Now, it's strategic in our decision-making about, I have this piece of information now, I know how to use Linkit, I know how to use my math tools, I can design instruction around it. My principal expects me to, right? Is that overarching? How far along are you with that, Barry? Are you far enough along that should still remain a focus? Or is it still so nascent, in this early stage that it needs to rise to this level of a strategic goal?
It's nascent. I hear what you're saying. Let me put a context here too. We start this school not knowing where our kids are. We know that there's learning loss with a population, and we don't know what that will be until we open the doors that we start doing some assessments. And then the state is requiring and mandating us to do Start Strong assessments in September, October. And they promise they'll get some of that turnaround from that assessment feedback so our teachers can change instruction. I think that's the goal. How are we using data and assessments to improve instruction? That's going to be really important this year, that goal. But I don't think that's a goal. I'm interested to hear, back to your original question. No, we don't have Link It universal. A lot of teachers are excited about it. Our principals are excited about it, but we could use more. And we've got about 4 different. We have Sundays, we have Link It, we have other assessments. We have Teachers College Reading Running Records where teachers report back and get a sense of reading levels, but we could be doing a better job for sure to change instruction.
I had a question. Do departments have goals? Like each department, do they have goals? You know, how, we're talking about the district goals, but does each individual department have their own goals?
I have not seen that in this district. In my position again, if I understand the question, Berlinda, and help me, once we set 3 district goals, strong goals, those funnel down to and align to everything our organization does. So where I've seen this be very successful is you go to an ELA high school meeting with supervisors and you talk about if it's using assessments to improve student instruction or whatever this goal is going to be, the meetings and the conversations and the activities align to district goals. That's why these are so important. They affect everything that's done in department meetings, in teachers' activities in the classroom, and what our students are doing.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I believe it was the third or the fourth recommendation was, I'm an official person, I need to see the presentation, but it was the ELL. There was a goal that that focused, that targeted the ELL and how to support ELL. And once again, that's in the curriculum, and that is
Yep.
that goes, that's in the instruction, and the modification.
It is.
So what I'm hearing is less is better, instead of developing 6, 7 goals, really focus on 2, maybe 3 goals. And if it's supporting, if there's just a goal that you were recommending that support ELL, wouldn't that fall under the ELL department?
Okay, so Judy, do you want to speak to this or should I?
So I
give
think
some-
that when I'll just such a good question. I'll think about this in terms of when a district says, yes, supporting our ELL learners is part of our standards, it's part of our everyday mission. But when it becomes one of the 2 or 3 top goals, that means everyone, right? Not just the teachers of ELL, not just the teachers of English and literacy. It means everyone. So that would speak to the department question, Berlinda, like how are we in every department, every grade level, cluster, every school, what do we do comprehensively to support our ELL learners, right? Not just that that's the work of the literacy teacher, right? Or the English teacher or the 3rd grade teacher. That's how do we support our ELL children in every capacity in the school, with guidance, lessons, with welcoming parents, with math literacy. How do we do this all the way around? So when you choose your goals, every school and every department and every teacher will be expected to buy into, right, and to own a piece of this goal and to be thinking, well, as I design my lessons, as I design my counseling, as I work in the nurse's office, whatever my role is, how do I contribute to the advancement of this goal? Right. So let me use another example. SEL. Social and emotional learning work is not the sole work of your guidance counselors. Right. So there could be people who say, we have a social emotional learning curriculum and our guidance counselors help deliver it. When this is your strategic focus, everyone is thinking about how to support and design activities, clubs, experiences, and instructional lessons for the promotion, deepening of our children's social emotional learning, right? Everybody gets that lens, not just the social workers or the guidance counselors.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is that there is a district goal, and then if there is a district goal, then everyone buys in.
Everybody
in
has an expectation, right? Everybody
expectation.
knows what the
So
goal.
why not, if you have a district goal, why can't every department have goals, develop goals, so to reach that district goal? Like
They will.
they will. So each
Yep.
department, they do have goals.
I don't know what they have right now, but they will.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
will. So they will have goals.
Right. That's the expectation.
That's the expectation, that every department will have goal.
Mhm. That's how it
Okay.
becomes systemic work, right?
Okay.
That's how it becomes all inclusive.
I'm not trying to create more work for you, Dr. Hayes.
Oh, no, no, no.
I'm
No,
just
these
trying
are-
to, I'm just trying
are
to
brilliant questions.
understand, you know, it's
Right.
just,
Yeah.
I want to give one of my favorite examples because it was so visual and illustrative of this to me. A district that I worked with had the goal of increasing multidisciplinary and global awareness. And so they had really good activities for how to do that, but that was kind of the goal. And the principal had taken that goal and put it above the copy machine in the teacher's room and said, here's the big goal. Here's how we talk about it in departments. And here are some activities that happen in your classroom, and had aligned all that with yarn above the copy machine. The teachers would come in every day, go to the copy machine, look at that and go, oh, these are some of the activities that I'm performing in my classroom that go back to that district goal. And I love that visual because that's how teachers should think about district goals every day. Coming back to ELL and ESL, because Judy asked me to describe that a little bit. This came up on my radar, I'll say in the past 3 months, when we all understand our community is made up of 60 to 70% Hispanic students and many Spanish-speaking families in our communities. And we have a supervisor of ELL, ESL, who, along with the principals and administrators and even some teachers, have told me that our teachers could be doing a better job of recognizing and supporting our ELL population. We could be doing a better job of that. When I think about that, and Judy,
Our teachers could strengthen their work if we strengthen them.
Thank you. And that's exactly it. So what activities and support systems do I put into place? But before even thinking about that, that to me, help me with this, is part of social emotional learning. It's part of social justice. It's part of social emotional learning in service to social justice, making sure we are meeting all of the diverse learners in our classrooms. And so that almost ELL to me is a activity, or needs the support and the services and the professional development to ensure we have inclusive classrooms.
yeah, I thank you for saying that, because
Right.
I feel that when developing a goal just for ELL, you're kind of
Yeah,
isolating
yes.
them, you're singling
Yeah.
them out. So that's part of social justice, part of inclusivity, that's part of supporting our families, supporting the community. But at the same time, we need to support our teachers through PD,
Absolutely.
and professional development, and obviously
Dr.
training.
Martinez said, yeah.
Okay.
You know, we have
Yep.
amazingly talented educators across our state and in Ridgefield Park. It's a question of focus for them, not telling them there were 32 priorities this year, right? It's a question of supporting them with the materials and the learning and the pacing, right? And that's built into your action plans. They're incredibly eager human beings, right, who come to our classes to do the right thing. The two that you can think of who don't are outliers, right? So think about the majority of people who come with talent and energy and care. And when they learn, and they will say to a faculty, they learn best with each other, from each other. When they have the time to do that and the resources, great things happen, right? Great things happen.
But am I understanding now that we're not doing a goal for ELL, but we're gonna try to build it into the social justice.
Well,
So we're reducing that goal number by combining two things.
I think that what the suggestion is on the table is that there's work in place and already work that has some traction around ELL, certainly in the district. And that if we continue that work and stay attuned to it, it does speak to the social and emotional learning and the social justice work of every child getting what's best for him or her. I think that if that doesn't feel like a burning, all-encompassing, right? You want to pay attention to A, something that's on fire, and B, something that's so aspirational that it will avoid a fire, right? It'll move you in really strong ways.
And
Go ahead.
I really don't want to create more work for the teachers too.
Yeah.
Supporting them through PD, but then also suggesting that like the SGO goals, maybe their SGO goals can somehow align with the district goals.
They should. They absolutely should. At least one SGO goal should always align with your district goals. So for everyone else, that means like one of their individual goals. George, Robert, I'm wondering what you're thinking. We haven't heard from you today. And so George and then Ricardo.
Yeah, my only, it's not a concern, it's just how as a board and as a district do we plan to gauge this?
Right.
How do we measure it in its success of this goal? I'm more curious, and I'm sure our fellow attendees are more curious, is how do we plan to gauge this goal and how it trickles down to our from our board goal to our department goals, our administrative goals. That's basically what I'm trying to get out of this.
Okay.
Can I layer my question? Can I layer my question on top of George's? Because I think your answer is going to handle both. You know, I think going back to number 3, I think that's why we need the data analysis, because we weren't doing that in this district. The history of this item and many of the programs that the administration has bought in terms of assessments really came to be because we weren't doing that in this district. Teachers were kind of working in isolation, and we didn't have an overall kind of knowledge of how we were doing. And I think a lot of times when we reported on state testing results or other results, we were really doing it to get through that process, CUSAC or whatever it was, rather than to really inform what we were going to do in the district next. So I just want to layer that on top of George's before you respond.
Right. Thank you so much. We don't want to do our work to pass CUSAC. When we do our work well, CUSAC is an afterthought. It's like, yep, done. Right. When we do our work well, you pass CUSAC without a blink, right? You don't turn yourself inside out to get things ready in 2 months.
So can I just say something really quick before I forget? But SGO goals are measurable, right?
Yes.
So that's how we can, and also when developing PTPs, you know,
they're measurable.
Yeah, they're measurable.
You're gonna have to help us with these acronyms, Belinda.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Haynes, take it away.
Sure.
Let's
Judy, do you want to, or you want me to? Go for it.
Well, I'm just going to back up and say that the measurement comes, first of all, in consistency of measurement. So if we're using a nationally validated student survey to gauge social emotional learning for our children, we give it the same month every year, and we make public the results and the trends, right? And it's a free survey you can use. The New Jersey State Survey is actually really good. So is the New York State Survey, if you can borrow it. So you've got free resources. The question is, do you administer it every year in the same month and then make it public, right? This is what our children are saying to us about their lives and their lives in our public schools. That's one example, George, about benchmarking and gauging progress, right? And then adjusting your work from the survey results. Some of it is your actual standardized test scores, right? Some of it is your teacher survey, right? So when we survey teachers annually, again, the same month every year, about the quality of the professional learning, you know, whatever questions we want to focus on, we have something to mark the trends of to see progress. Graduation rates, career and college acceptances, you know, whatever, these are annual. So when I say annual, I mean to the point where there is a plan every year of these are the benchmarks we will gather, right, for all of our children every year. It could be a parent survey as well. But when we do these things haphazardly or different months of the year or 1 year and forget to do it the next, right, when they're not part of our system, then we say, geez, we've spent all this money, we've bought all these programs, and we don't know if they've had an impact or not.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay, does that make sense? And
Oh,
so
absolutely. Thank you so much.
just to clarify the other point, when these district goals are set, everybody's goals are aligned with them, right? So now if I'm an art teacher, I'm thinking about SEL, right?
Right.
If I'm a phys ed teacher, I'm thinking about SEL.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. So what I'm going to try to summarize what I'm hearing. You're not going to leave this morning with like this crispness of your goals, but you are going to have this crispness within a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. So I would really love for Dr. Haynes to be able to open with a general statement about the goals when he greets faculty in September. And I think that's very, very possible. I'm going to just try to recap what I'm hearing.
Just briefly, because it's just information. That's all this is. So the keynote on the first day on the 7th that we introduce the goals and go right into the keynote and the afternoon work, I want the board to know, is on trauma-informed practices, what our teachers need to know about gauging student social emotional learning, stress, anxiety, where they are. And then in the afternoon, I'm real excited because we just finalized this yesterday. Every school will have a leader coach for listening circles. So there will be a small group of teacher who demonstrates what a listening circle is for adults. So this is our adult learners getting to process trauma-informed practices so they can take that directly back into the classroom as an activity that they will start the school year with to allow those open conversations about listening circles and restorative justice circles is where we want to go. So that's what's happening on the 7th to meet some of these needs. For ELL and ESL, we have, and this comes through the CRRSA Act, we have a professional development provider. We have days where we will be hiring subs so teachers get released from their classrooms to work with some of the ELL professional provider services, as we do with the SEL. So some of those activities support what Judy's about to talk about too, the goals. And also on the PDP, Berlinda, I want to come back to what you say, because in my role, I love that teachers go to PDP. They fill out, every teacher has to fill out a survey after they do PDP in our district. And I actually look at the results and say, some of them, I mean, they're great professionals.
I was referring to professional development plan, like the PDP, not PD.
But if when the PDP is written by the teacher, it's the district's goal to make sure that that teacher is supported through professional development to meet it with good quality professional development.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep, that's okay. And so those plans are in place too. It's a qualitative kind of judgment of, did this support the teacher's needs in meeting their PDP and the district goals? Judy,
when you had mentioned listening circle, is that an extension to the warm welcome?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to totally abandon warm welcome or continue to produce? It's okay.
They're both. I think listening circles at the beginning of this year, again, I've heard our adults need to process this too. And so it's a positive way to open up the year to allow our adults to both experience it and practice it and take it back into their classrooms.
I want to say that, geez, it's a beautiful plan for those first 2 days, because not only is it meeting people where they are and what the primary needs are, we do need to wade in here, as I said, and not dive into the deep end here. And even if you, at first, greet someone and say, how are you? And that adult says, fine, fine. When you say, how are you really? There is not an adult who doesn't have something bubbling right below the surface right now about their own children, their parents, themselves, where we are today, right? For a million reasons, societal, cultural reasons, as well as medical health reasons. So that's real. And we're asking people to come back into a caring situation. Teaching is a caring mission and it's emotional. And we're asking people to put a lot of energy to it. And we need to make sure that we're tending to adults as well. So great plan. And gosh, I might have to drop in on one of those listening circles and see how that's going. It sounds like a really great plan to open school. So here's my proposal to you, good folks who have been hanging in there with this discussion on Saturday morning. I think that you've been really clear in terms of your affirmation of the need to work with the social justice and SEL priorities. I think that there's certainly clarity around, we're looking at our children, and I don't want people to think about this just as like your juniors and seniors. This is a feeding, right, from grade 5 up. This is how we help kids think about their options and their experiences for careers in college and further learning. And perhaps all of it through the lens of data analysis, right? So I'm going to suggest that data analysis informs all of this, what kids need socially and emotionally, where we are with social justice, where we are with reading skills, language skills, and that might be sort of a lens through which we see all of the work, possibly as instead of a separate distinct goal. And that you need to pay attention to a feasibility study for expanding early childhood options, right? And that might be more of a board level goal. Like the work of the board right now is to conduct a 6-month, not a 6-year feasibility study on expanding early childhood options.
Where are we on that? Because that was discussed at one of the board meetings. We were going to do a conduct a feasibility study. So what's the status of that, Dr. Haynes?
So I don't know about the feasibility study. I know I went to a state presentation and talked to other districts about those different models. I don't know about a feasibility study.
So, I mean, it's time, I think, to declare that you need to have a fact gathering, right? So that you know your options when the time comes, especially if money is freed up for grant applications. You want to know what your options might be and how to best apply that money. That is not a teacher's job right now, right? That is the board job to conduct the feasibility study.
When you say the board's job, I mean, the board will hire somebody outside to do the actual study.
Or to see.
So what is the status of that? Because we already discussed that at the board meeting. So
then it needs an action plan, right? Then it's
whose job is it to develop the action plan? Is it our job?
Dr. Haynes's job. Sorry, Dr. Haynes, but it's Dr. Haynes's job.
No, I don't apologize. This is
to share that with the board.
All good.
Here's the plan.
Yep.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to look at 5 models. We're going to do a brief survey of our community. We're going to survey our facilities to know what we have and what we don't have. And we're going to be ready for applications for support for funding.
Berlinda, if I can just say, I think we've moved. I think the board has moved through discussion from having a feasibility study of a feasibility study, and we're at the point that I think we're in agreement. I can't speak for the entire board actually, but I think there's at least passive agreement that the question is going to be how we do this, and so we're at the point of doing a real feasibility study of how we're going to do this, not whether we're going to do this. When it was brought up in June, the discussion about it was whether we would do universal pre-care. pre-K. And I think we're at the point that we're talking about how to do it,
Okay. Thank you.
I think.
Well, and let me just say in support of what I just heard, that we have decided to move forward with this. So we need to put together the action plan and whatever else we need to be prepared. I mean, we've discussed this for the last 10 years.
Yeah, 100%. It's time to move forward.
Yes, and it's 10 years. It is time to move forward. I don't want it to be another resolution or another, something that the board discussed that was never
but I agree.
executed.
I agree with Dr. Martinez saying that we decided how.
Okay.
If we are, now it's how. That is moving forward.
Good.
So George, just give me 1 second.
So I wasn't aware that we decided. That's why I just wanted to know.
And we're not taking any actions or decisions today either. We're discussing.
Right.
So one of the things I really do appreciate this, and as Judy will say, for the boards in the future to say this is important, we're moving beyond feasibility study, we need an action plan to get it done, gives me clear guidance and makes it a priority, which so helps in my job and my role to clarify the priorities that I deal with day to day. And it's greatly appreciated. Judy, thanks.
And that's exactly where I would like to take you now, before your heads are just spinning. I would like to take you to this point. I think that your discussion among yourselves this morning, hearing each other's understandings, preferences, again, priorities, I think that we have enough that Dr. Haynes can form a very clear set of goals, like crisply stated goals, with one board goal, like, strategic goals for the whole district, and a board goal of moving forward with the feasibility study for universal pre-K. And bring that to, I don't know the date of your next board meeting, I'm sorry, that's not in my head, but bring that to possibly your next board meeting, because your role is to endorse these goals as stated, right? And once you endorse the goals as presented to you as a result of your work, then Dr. Haynes can turn around to the district and say, here are our marching orders. This is the work we're sinking ourselves into, and we're going to align efforts, resources, professional development time, etc., right, to this work multi-year, and that there'll be action plans behind them. The action plans are going to take longer than here are the goals and let's endorse them, but you should expect action plans early this fall, right, so that people can see the crispness in that also.
I just want to add one part of that process, because I've said many times, and I'd like to believe you see my activities support this. I'm a collaborative decision maker who needs a lot of input. And so I will be developing these and passing them by my administrative team actually before you see them, because I want to make sure my administrative team has input and buy-in.
And your faculty. So I'm sorry,
And
but
faculty.
I'm a hugely collaborative person. These goals don't get ownership because someone tells anybody to own them. They get ownership because people who have had voice in developing how to move forward. So that's why those action plans will take a couple of months, because Dr. Haynes will organize focus groups, input groups, right, and be ready to roll with them.
I think if I can.
So the goals, sorry.
I was just gonna say real quick, it also allows the public to judge how effective we are as a board, not just how effective Dr. Haynes is, but how effective we are as a board in terms of the decisions that we make and whether they support the goals that we're coming up with now.
Very much so.
So, but if I can just clarify, so the goals we'll receive from Dr. Haynes, probably the next board meeting. Action plans will come later on how the district will achieve those goals. At that point, that action plan will mostly involve the administrator, faculty, etc. What role does the board play with respect to the action plans?
Monitoring. You are the accountability, right? So your role is to keep those alive on your board agendas, right? So that comes in different formats: formal reporting, the collection of data, as George referred to earlier, and the highlighting, right? Like the highlighting of student work, teacher work at board meetings as they align to the goals. These goals should be present on your agendas, present at back to school nights, present in communications and newsletters. Like that's how you keep this alive and at the fore.
Thank you.
George?
I just wanted to be 100% supportive of Dr. Haynes and his initiative to collaborate with administrators, faculty, and the staff, because again, now they get it, like you said, Judy, that now they get their voices heard. And, you know, now they feel, okay, my voice is heard. I was able to help put this goal together. Now they almost feel like they got a little skin in the game, so to speak.
Well, absolutely, right? They've got ideas and experiences that I don't have, that you don't have, right? They're only going to enrich all the work.
Very, very comforting to hear that, by the way.
I think the plan is really the basis here. I mean, when we look back and what you've said earlier, you know, focusing on CUSAC, and when CUSAC comes in, you're spending a couple months on this, or you're looking at test scores. I think it really comes back to the plan and, you know, the pre-K and really building a solid foundation, right? So starting out really young, trying to identify where the gaps are between students, try to support these students from the ground up. And as we do this, I think as a board, it's got to be, like you had said, you know, a regular process throughout our meetings. We need to be bringing it up, talking about committees, and really supporting the plan throughout the process. And if adjustments are made, supporting that process. Because if we're just looking at CUSAC, just looking at the test scores, if that's going to just be the story, and then if the state rolls out something else, you know, we just focus on that point because that's the hot item. And it's happened in other districts that I'm a part of. I think that it's got to be the plan. We have to stay consistent to the plan, to the process. If there's going to be adjustments, let's talk through those. Let's support the process, and the process will ultimately lead to, you know, CUSAC being an afterthought. Because, like you had said earlier, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, the test scores and the CUSAC and all that stuff will work itself out. It's not going to be an overnight process, but it's going to be a process that we need to support at the beginning and just keep monitoring it throughout until we hit our goal.
Yes, like I totally agree that, you know, the foundation, that's the most important thing, supporting the process, not only for that year, but then throughout the whole, you know, the whole education, the whole, you know, educational year of the child's, but also even after they graduate, because they're a representation of our district, they're a representation of our town. So I think about what you're saying, Phytros, and also what Golem said, that we also have to include our special needs population and possibly a transitional coordinator. So, you know, the foundation, but it doesn't stop there. It continues even after they graduate, and, you know, and with our special needs population until they hit 21. What else are we going to do? How are we going to support them once they leave us? Because everyone is a representation of our town and of our, you know, district.
And it starts really young, right?
It does. It does.
K2 literacy programs, trying to get kids to improve on the reading, you know, capturing, seeing that issue on K1 and not realizing at 5th grade there's an issue, right? So
yes,
recognizing early, having kids getting leveled readers, getting these kids on the path, so that you know, and even the child feels it. There, you know, there's a gradual success. You know, they're reading this book, they're moving up. They're you know, you want the child to feel as much success as much as we want to see it in them. They want to feel it themselves, and the teachers also feel like they're making progress. It's got to be something, you know. Everybody's got to be invested in this. The child,
and it's before kindergarten. Yes, like before kindergarten, pre-K, there has to be that love for learning, that love for literacy. That is what we need to do at the pre-K level.
If you look at math is much about literacy and understanding the question as it is about the numbers, right? So it's changed a lot from where we were as children. So, you know, literacy is just very important. I think that pre-K is an absolute must, and we just really need to get the plan in place and start just working towards it.
And agree with you both. We have great teachers, especially for our special needs population, and the formative years, as said, are so important. So thank you all for your time.
So I think that that my work for the morning with you is at a good place, that I can certainly support Dr. Haynes in creating language that makes sense for endorsement. But I think you've come to some common understandings that Dr. Haynes can now springboard from, and that will really matter greatly to all of your kids and not just a few.
Can't thank you enough.
You're good folks, and you're good thinkers, and there's no easy path here for us to make great progress, but you're ready to do the work.
Gotta just thank Dr. Haynes and you, Judy, for just, again, the first one was so informative, and this is just great. Really is. Really enjoying this.
Really,
thank you so much.
My privilege. Thanks.
It's good work. It's good work that, we committed to when we became a member of this governing body to do. And so it's exciting to talk about it as a group and to share. And I thank all of you for participating. It's been awesome.
And I think, I'm sorry to say this because I'm not going to be involved, and I'm going to but I think, Dr. Haynes, that you wanted to spend the next few moments on another public session.
I did. Thank you very much. So
okay. I just didn't want you to forget that technically.
Nope. I have it up on my screen and I appreciate that. So I was advised, and I think rightfully so, because there was a change of location. We did have public comment at the beginning of this meeting, and I'm going to open it up for public comment again before the meeting is adjourned. So if anybody in the public, we have about 21 attendees. If anybody is interested in making a public comment before we adjourn the meeting today, please go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll elevate you to a panel status, and we continue public comment.
Thank you. Is there a time that we should keep?
Yeah, I think so. I have 11:15 on my clock. I think 11:17, and there's no reason that we can't talk. I think that gives people 2 minutes. Maybe that's generous, but I'll go back to I value public comment. I value our community. That's how we learn. That's how we grow stronger together. There's one person. Here we go.
In Dr. Haynes, if I may just make the last suggestion, is that in creating these goals, it might be best to also include something with our receiving district as well. Again, it's very important that we see this district as not just Richfield Park. We also have to collaborate with our receiving district that's right over our bridge, and that we've had a strong relationship with since the opening of our school, I believe. So if I can only make that small
I think
suggestion.
that's it. So I think, as Judy said, the goals are strong, and activities, the process that we go through to ensure we're meeting those goals include Little Ferry. Great suggestion. Thank you for that.
Great.
Marley, I promoted. Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
Go ahead.
It's Marley Gonzalez, 225 Euclid Avenue. I just wanted to ask Judith Wilson, very well spoken, really impressed with her presentation this morning. What is her title, and what services is she providing our district?
Hey, Judy. It looks like she's muted right now. She probably went to get a cup of coffee or
She may have stepped away.
Sorry, no coffee. Sorry.
Sorry. Okay.
Hi, Judith Wilson. My LLC is just Judith Wilson LLC. I was 37 years in public education in New Jersey, and I serve boards in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, mostly on governance and leadership issues.
So you've been brought in as a consultant for our district, correct?
Correct. Short term.
Short term. What does short term mean?
Meaning I was contracted for 2 days with your board.
Okay. So after today, you're out?
I will always be a friend to the board and help however I can, but I don't have a formal obligation beyond today.
Gotcha. Well, that's a shame. You were wonderful, and I hope you're brought back often. Thank you.
Thanks.
So and Marley, towards that point, because I don't you can tell that two brains are always better than one. And I've told the board this, I can't tell you how much I appreciate Judy's background, her sage advice, and the ideas that she has in crafting goals. I will be reaching out to Judy because I want to make sure that the goals are crafted in such a way that they're transparent to the board, communicated to the public, and we can move forward on them and make sure they're measurable in the future. And so towards that end, I can't say I'm not going to use Judy. I want to be clear that that may be a resource that I think is good for our public moving forward. Marley, are you okay? I have 4 other questions.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, and also too, Dr. Haynes, don't be afraid to tell them how this was your collaborative effort to get these going, you know, please.
Yeah, I don't know. I've known Judy for way too long. I know her superstar ability to be able to lead diverse boards to a cohesive plan that they can move forward on. And that makes a huge difference, as you'll see over the next few months or years. We all get to be on the same page, and she's brilliant at it. And so for whatever reason, thank you. It's good life work, right? Our students deserve it, and our teachers deserve it, and our community is deserving of it. I don't know of anything that's more deserved. And so to have Judy in to help us put us on that path towards that work is just, it's a treasure.
I assumed it had been you, Dr. Haynes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Joshua Sadler, welcome. I'm promoting you because you had your hand up.
You also have an Ingrid too in here.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, I might have promoted too. So Joshua Sadler, go ahead and tell us your address, and you're free to comment.
You muted?
No, he unmuted. Well, let me leave him promoted, and I'll go to Ingrid Raftery, or Mr. Raftery. You've been promoted. If you want to unmute and make a comment. So there are 2 other people who have their hands up. I'm going to promote them while either Joshua or Ingrid unmute. Elaine Marin and Stephanie Castellucci.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So in the beginning of the
Can I have your address,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry. Yes, 7th Street. So
Thank
in
you.
the beginning, thank you. In the beginning, I heard, specific goals that kind of caught my attention, how you act as a board, how you communicate standards of conduct, and how you function as a board kept getting repeated. So with all due respect, and I'm not trying to start any problems, but I have a legitimate question. So we've seen in-house fighting and tension for years and years. I'd go so far as to say that there's been a lot of tension that has trickled into the community. So I'm curious, what steps is the board planning on taking to kind of work together to communicate better with each other, to really come up with these common goals for our district? And I think that there needs to be some sense of, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this function better? And how are we going to be a united front for the community?
So I'll go ahead and answer that. This is where I do appreciate Judy coming in, because you're never a prophet in your own district. But I will answer, I think the July 22nd board retreats and today's retreat was great evidence. When we talk about measurability, I'm a qualitative person, and I think the civility and the quality of the conversation we had, the voices that participated, and the goals that will come forward in the next 3 weeks or so soon speak to this board unifying itself as a governing body, creating a vision and moving forward on goals that are good for the board and the district. That's what I've seen the work on today. That's what I can comment on.
Barry, if I can just add, I think also these two trainings, and I've been pushing for a board retreat. The second part was awesome, but the board retreat with the first part, really defining our roles and the limitations and the expectations of board membership and the superintendent position. I think that both these meetings allow the public to hold us accountable on our behavior in meetings and outside of meetings. And so I think that that's also going to be helpful.
I need to also, thank you, Dr. Martinez. And I need to also go back to something I said at the beginning. It's unfortunately human nature that we look out, we participate in conversations, we look at social media, we get engaged. But board goals that we are developing with a unified voice create cultures on things that we pay attention to. You'll hear me say it again and again. As long as we are focused on those things we pay attention to as far as board goals and moving the district forward, the other things don't get to be as important, and they shouldn't be. Ms. Marin, did we answer your question?
Yes. Yes, I've been paying attention and jotting stuff down, and I'm going to hold you guys accountable. The other thing that I wanted to just say, and I don't think this was addressed, but Dr. Martinez had asked about some of the acronyms. So the student growth objective is the SGO. Teachers have to create 1 to 2 per year, depending on if they're a tested subject or not. They have the option to either select 1 or 2. The other subjects have 2 goals. These are measurable goals. So there is a beginning step in the beginning of the year where they fill out forms. There is a mid-year evaluation and an end of the year. And this is all good data. Teachers also have a PDP, which is a little bit more personalized. And their goals are, created by their own interests, desires, what they're seeing in the classroom. Again, those are measurable. So I think those will all be good pieces of data if those are in fact aligned with district goals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to promote Stephanie Castellucci.
Yeah, right there. Okay. Now raise your hand.
Greetings, Stephanie, if you'd like to unmute and speak.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Hi there.
And hi, your address?
84 Union Place.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just really enjoyed listening to all of this. And I just want to say thank you for considering the early childhood aspect of the district. My children won't be able to benefit from it as they're older, but I personally was able to provide as much as I could in that area. And I do look forward to everybody coming after us being able to have that option. It's, as you know, and I'm kind of preaching to the choir, every other issue and every other concern comes out of that early childhood development. It comes from the just aspect of learning, as well as respect issue and social emotional learning issue that might be your main focus. So in focusing on the early childhood, I think, those other goals are really just be enhanced and really easier met. And, just everything that's been going on in our district, without struggle, nothing good comes, right? So I think taking that idea of the social emotional development and developing diversity, developing respect, even in terms of the environmental programs, it's all really tightly intertwined. And I just want all the board members to keep that in mind, before each meeting and each decision and each action. And just know that for me personally, someone who can pivot and grow and listen and learn is someone that I can, cheer for and support and hopefully work together with. And so as you may have guessed, I've been in early childhood for 20 years. So I look forward to watching and helping in any way I can, or, watching this town really take over in that area. Thank you so very much. And I can't wait to hear about more. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Anybody else? I think Ingrid Raftery, I thought I heard. Yep.
Ingrid Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue. I have a question. Does the pre-K program include Little Ferry? Because I'm a bit confused about the status.
So that would be, and that goes back to what George said. I think we need to be mindful of including Little Ferry on all of the board goals that we're developing. And the answer to that would come through the
If I can interrupt for a second, Little Ferry does have a part-time pre-K program currently. So I don't know that it would include Little Ferry. But possibly down the line, if there was an opportunity to, align both districts to include a full-time pre-K, maybe that's a possibility, but we currently in Little Ferry have a pre-K program going.
Rob, possibly Dr. Haynes, I'm sure he will reach out to Little Ferry to,
It's part of that would be a step as part of the feasibility study. Ingrid, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. My other question is, September is around the corner. Now my granddaughter is starting high school, and I would love for her to have the best start and be college ready in 4 years.
I just say we have a great program where students now attend Bergen Community College, and we had a number of students that actually graduated with an associate's degree, which is a part of that. So hopefully your granddaughter is a part of that as well someday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I think those were all the people who raised their hands for public comment.
I
To
think
me,
just
what I-
Sean Sadler is still in with hand raised. But muted. So I don't know if they're still there or not. Go ahead, they're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Hello, can
Oh,
you
there.
hear me?
Yep. Thank you, Bernard. Yep. Speak louder, please. Yep.
Hi, so,
Can I have your address, please? Your address, please?
Oh, yes, hi, Suhani Perez Sadler, 139 Overpeck Avenue. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a great morning. I heard a lot of great things around priorities for the district, not yet goals, because goals need to be measurable and attainable. And so we don't have goals, but what I hear by way of priorities, and I just want to make sure that I got that right, because it's been a fruitful and rich conversation, is that our first priority is around SEL and social justice. And the second priority is around rigorous instruction, which includes making sure that we meet the needs of our L students, make sure that our students graduate college and career ready, and make sure that our special needs students also get the support, instructional support that they need. Is that our two priorities as a district? Did I miss
I think
it?
so. It would not be fair for me to speak on behalf of the board or the community at this time to say these are going to be our goals. I think you've mentioned a couple of the topics that have come up in our conversation that are important to ensure we think about moving forward. But the goals will be and you have mentioned some of the priorities, some of them, not all of them, that we will consider as we move forward.
When will we hear about the priorities? Is it at the August 28th Board of Ed meeting? Or because, school is starting in a couple of weeks. So in terms of just learning more, not again the goals and the action plan, because that does take a lot more involvement, but as a way of priorities, when will we have a sense of what the vision is moving forward for the district?
I would be prepared for a draft of that, a draft open for discussion at the next board meeting.
The other thing I heard, which I am excited about, is the board goal for the feasibility study around expanding early childhood options. Exclamation point on that. We know how important it is for our young students to have that instructional support as early as possible. I think that we should add another goal for the board, which is Dr. Martinez mentioned a retreat. I think that there is a lot of confusion around our board members as to what their role, responsibility, and function is. There's been some concerns around overreach in terms of volunteer activities that, quite frankly, are not allowed by our School Ethics Act. And so I think a refresher is always important. I am a district employee in New York City Public Schools. We're constantly getting trainings every year on our role, responsibility, and ethical. So it's just good practice to have yearly conversations so that everyone could be reminded or learn for the first time what is the role of the board and what is the role of the district and where, who does what, right? Clear roles and responsibilities. So I would love to see the board add that as a board goal. The third
Thank you, Mrs. Sadler.
Third and final comment I will make is that someone mentioned something about the feasibility study for Little Ferry and the early childhood pre-K extension. I need a little bit more clarity on that. I believe that our receivership is only for the high school. So I'm not sure why there should be a feasibility study that includes Little Ferry for early childhood. I am all for alignment. I think having cross-district collaboration, cross goal setting, and the superintendent speaking.
Mrs. Sadler, thank you for your comments. I think what you heard was checking activities as part of the.
Forward. I'm sorry, Dr. Haynes. I'm not done yet. My tax dollars, payers dollars, I believe, goes towards the high school and the receivership, not towards teaching the early Little Ferry students, as much as I advocate early childhood for all. So let's make sure that we're clear on what our receivership, contractual, actual goals and partnership looks like, and let's not overreach and overextend past our current partnership. Thank you.
Sadler, I just want to comment that I'm pretty sure what we're talking about is just to get Little Ferry on the same page. We're not looking as our Board of Education to spend money on their pre-K, but it would be nice to align. I think that's more what we're trying to say here. So what we've been trying to do is align the curriculum so when the kids do come into high school, they're on the same playing field.
Thank you, Trustee Versilli. But Trustee Fichos did mention that pre-K, that Little Ferry, when we discussed a couple of minutes ago, the Little Ferry already has a pre-K program. So Trustee Fichos, he clearly stated that there's no need to work with Little Ferry in terms of the pre-K program because they already have a pre-K program. And me as a parent, I'm familiar with the pre-K program in Little Ferry because that was one of my options.
Yeah,
for
I
my
mean,
child.
just to go back, I'm not saying that we should not work together. If there's some kind of program where we can align curriculums at any step, from pre-K up to K-12, we want to align curriculums because ultimately, as the students get to the high school, we want everybody to be on the same page and to get every student to be, getting the same education at the high school and really finishing up strong as they finish their academic careers as Little Ferry comes into Richfield Park. Yes, we definitely have a pre-K program. We've had one for numerous years now. It's a program it's got a certain amount of children in it. It's a part-time program, but in no way is Little Ferry looking for Richfield Park to spend their funds on Little Ferry students in the pre-K program. I want to be abundantly clear about that. What we are looking for is to align curriculums so that we can be working together so that kids in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade are on the same page so that when they get to the high school, they are Richfield Park students. So we want these children to be aligning our curriculums. And that really doesn't cost money per se. It's more about working together in these different workshops that we have and trying to get Little Ferry teachers and Richfield Park teachers to work together in different development things to try to get the proper acronyms and words are escaping me right now, but that's what we want to do, right? Little Ferry is willing to pay and has paid its fair share to run its own K-8 program, pre-K-8 program. We just want to work together so that, as Mr. Martinez has referenced back in over numerous meetings, as have I and other people, about making sure that we have the best possible test scores and to make sure that our students are the best possible students they can be in the high school. Because if you look at our test scores, they really are not very good. And I think that, if we work better to align the curriculums, the results will speak for itself down the line. And that's all about why we're here today, about putting together a plan to work together, but also to get Richfield Park on its own plan to get its now hopefully pre-K to 12 district on the right path.
So just to clarify, it is a goal for Ridgefield Park, not for Little Ferry.
I was very clear.
So I'm not, so I'm not sure why.
I think I want to bring this topic to a summary. Let me see if I have this. I think it will be best if I draft the goals along with the activities and present them at the next board meeting for input. And I think I will take in account everything that I've heard today, which I think has been brilliant, and move this forward. I'm not sure that we need to right now get into either some of those activities or some of the processes of how we'll go about creating a feasibility study, because the feasibility study is the goal. Okay.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Haynes. Part of the feasibility study is asking surrounding areas and towns and villages what they're doing in order to.
Let me draft let me draft that and bring it to the board for more discussion from everything that I've heard today, and also from the other subcommittee meetings that we've had prior to today. I think that'll be good. I again want to say, the public comment who has had the opportunity to comment at the mic, I was pretty excited that the majority of them were either endorsing the work that you're doing today, or as I think we can do better as a community, we reached out to our community and asked for input. They gave input into the processes that we're going for today. And that excited me. I think we can do more of that with community meetings, with more input from our community, even on these draft goals in a productive, positive manner. That's what I heard and I'm excited about. And that's what I heard all morning. I think this is a good time to bring this meeting to a summary, holding me accountable to give you a draft of goals at the next board meeting, which I'm excited about. Don't be surprised if I reach out to some of you for clarity on some of those things as I craft the language, because that's important language that leads our district forward. If there's no other comment by board members, I cannot thank you enough to have met with Judy, to give your voluntary time. Can I say to the community out there who's still listening, these people don't get paid, okay?
We do, we get millions of dollars, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, right, to volunteer because they love Ridgefield Park so much and they want to see a community that's successful and kids that are successful. And those are great goals. I thank you all for this great work. I appreciate
Gibbons?
it.
Dr. Haynes.
Can we have a motion?
Thank you so much.
Can we have a
Terry,
motion
yeah.
to adjourn, please?
Please, go ahead.
Motion.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Dr. Haynes, Mrs. Grabstein.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Grabstein.
Nancy Lacona for being the tech support, who doesn't get enough credit. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
And Carrie, thank you again, as always.
Of course.
Who
my pleasure.
second? I second.
Bernard and Belinda.
Oh, no, I don't.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you
All
soon.
right, enjoy the rest of your
Thank you.
weekend,
Good day.
guys. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
You too.
Pleasure.
Great work,
Bye.
guys. So Nancy, on your end, I think you stopped the recording, is that correct? And then leave the meeting, or the recording will be captured as you leave the meeting?
If you hit end or I hit ends, everything ends.
Everything else. Okay. It was great seeing you. We're ending.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.